And we are back. Welcome to episode 2 of the Sports King.Pod. And guys, it was a busy weekend in sports, and we got a lot to cover today. I'm joined by the same cast and crew from last week. I got the Price brothers up top, Daniel and Anthony, and of course my good friend to the right of me, Tennyson Thomas. And guys, before we get started, I got to say real quick, this video is brought to you by absolutely no one. So if you want to sponsor us, hit us up. Listen, we're free, all right? Shadow Legends, I know you're out there. I know you're watching this. Bring us the money. All right, first thing, big thing, Los Angeles Lakers win Game 6 of the NBA Finals and capture another NBA title. Tennyson, start us off. What do you got?
I just got to say that game, the series, this whole bubble experience was crazy. I feel like LeBron and AD is probably one of the greatest duos in basketball to this day. Probably comparable to Shaq and Kobe, comparable to Magic Johnson. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, comparable to Jerry West and what's his face, Will Chamberlain. I feel like the Lakers championship series, they always conduct on like this whole two-man series where it's like a big and a small, and they run very well with this offense. And I feel like Frank Vogel is doing such an amazing job with his team. I feel like the Lakers are back on top. They suffered a drought for a while. I think 2010 was their last championship. Like this is a time for new changes, new season, new face for the Lakers.
I agree with that. I do like the duo of Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but where I'm gonna have to say too is you said Frank Vogel. I don't know how much coaching he really did this year. I think me and Dan were talking about it the other night. And I mean, don't get me wrong, guy's a great coach. He did great things in Indiana. I'm sure he had a lot of influence on this team again this year. But I don't know how much how much of that title was him. I'm not gonna say he did nothing, but I mean, just look at like when LeBron was in Cleveland. Sure, they had, Tyronn Lue and David Blatt, but LeBron coached that team pretty much.
Well, let's talk about Game 5 where they lost to the Heat, and then Game 6 they made that very weird change where they put Alex Cruz on the starting lineup and they put Anthony Davis in the 5. That they really fixed perimeter lockdown with that because Dwight Howard couldn't guard the perimeter. I feel like that decision by Frank Vogel was like one of the aspects of his highlights in the season where it's like he's kind of taking the initiative as coach for the Lakers.
Well, I feel like that's like a curveball you throw to the team. You understand? Like, remember when the Sixers played the Celtics a couple years ago in the playoffs and they were down 3-0, and then they started TJ McConnell in Game 4 and they won Game 4 pretty impressively. I feel like when you go a whole series with the normal starting 5, the same starting 5 every game, and then you switch it up, it changes the narrative a little bit.
Right, but what more could Frank Vogel have done for the
I'm
Lakers?
not saying there was less or more he could have done, but like my point is, I think LeBron coached that team just as equally, if not more, than Frank Vogel.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. But what do you guys feel about the Finals MVP status of LeBron James?
I don't know. I texted you right after the game ended. I thought they should have given it to Anthony Davis.
I argue with that. I feel like LeBron James deserved it in some ways.
I agree. I definitely agree.
I don't know. I mean, if you see my hat, I'm wearing a hockey hat right now. I'm used to, at the end of the Stanley Cup Finals, they don't give out the Stanley Cup MVP. They give out like the playoff MVP, kind of like who was the best player throughout the playoffs for that team. So I feel like if they gave out that award for NBA, they would give it to Anthony Davis. But I guess I can understand where you guys are coming from with the LeBron side of it in the NBA and the finals.
Right, but I feel like for this MVP status, like, if you take out LeBron James, will Anthony Davis go as far with this team? Or if you take out Anthony Davis, will LeBron James go as far with this team? Well, who goes further? I feel like LeBron James will go further with the Lakers than Anthony Davis could.
Yeah, I would probably have to agree because, each of them have led their own teams respectively. I mean, when Anthony Davis led the Pelicans, albeit I guess this Lakers bench was probably, a bit better, a lot of experienced players as well, which definitely helped. But Anthony Davis made it to the playoffs once, I believe, or he made it past the first round once in his entire New Orleans Pelicans career. And, this is LeBron James. I mean, to win this championship, they definitely need each other. I don't see LeBron winning without Anthony Davis.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Without Anthony Davis, there's no championship. But
yeah, but I do think that LeBron definitely deserved this, at least this Finals MVP. Anthony Davis, I would say, was their best player throughout the playoffs and the bubble. But in this Finals, definitely LeBron averaged 30, 11, and 8.5. He shot 60% from the field. He was the most valuable player. to the Lakers during this
Yeah, he
final
put up a triple double in Game 6 in a game that was really decided at halftime. I mean, the halftime score of that game was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was a blowout. The Lakers were up by like 30 something points at halftime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, 10 again. I texted you during the game. I was like, "What's going on with the Heat?" And you were telling me just like all their problems. And I was like, I mean, I was looking at the stats, and they were shooting like 40% at halftime, and their 3-point percentage was even worse.
Yeah.
So I think, I think this Heat team, no one expected them to be here. So I think they, they should pat themselves on the back for making it this far. And I think it would have been one hell of a story had they won it all, had they forced the Game 7, had they won the Game 7. I think that would have been a hell of a story. It would have made for an interesting 30 for 30 one day. I mean, the whole bubble narrative is going to make for an interesting 30 for 30 someday.
Yeah.
But I think it was an interesting series because just we all expected the Lakers to be there. Honestly, it was going to be one of the LA teams. I think everyone had in the back of their mind. We were going to see Kawhi and the Clippers or LeBron and the Lakers, and it ended up being true. We got LeBron and the Lakers in the finals, deservingly, because I think they deserved to be there. If you watch the Clippers play throughout any portion of the bubble, they didn't look good at all.
Should have lost to the Mavericks.
They should have lost to the Mavericks, in all honesty. And then I think everyone on the East side, it was like we were going to get Giannis, or we were probably going to maybe like the Celtics would surprise everyone.
Raptors were also a strong team.
We would see the Raptors show up again. Like no one really saw the Heat coming out of this. I feel like unless you were from Miami or a Heat fan, you were like, I don't know, like they'll probably be in the end of the first round, but they're going to match up against the Bucks, and I think everything's going to go downhill from there. But the exact opposite.
It was or what sports casting it was, but they said that the Heat had a 2% chance of making it to the finals or contending in the finals. I forget who it was. I think it was maybe ESPN or something.
Well, I mean, I could imagine there were a lot of people out there that were like, listen, don't put money on the Miami Heat to make the NBA Finals because, their path wasn't easy. I mean, they went up against a good Indiana team in the first round. Granted, they beat them pretty easily. And then, they went up against the number 1 seed and the MVP in the Milwaukee Bucks. And then, they manhandled them. And then, the Celtics put up a valiant effort against them, but it just wasn't enough. And then they finally, met their maker in the finals. You run into LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the Los Angeles Lakers, and this season things aren't going to end pretty for you.
What do you think the Heat was missing from the finals? I feel like the Heat really misses like a big man because I feel like Bam Adebayo is just too small to play center. He was getting kind of like bullied by boards by Anthony Davis or Dwight Howard. I feel like if they can just pull like a bigger body in the paint, and so they have a lot of great shooters they run. I think Duncan Robinson is playing power forward. It's a good role, but it's like he's too small to guard defense. I feel like defense was one of their biggest problems, and like getting boards and like running. I think Bam Adebayo should just run power forward, get a better center.
I agree.
Run it more through Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson. I feel like they missed like a lot of key points. Like they could have been, it was a good battle. Don't get me wrong. It was a really good battle, but there's like a lot of points where they could have just like, they could have subbed in like Kelly Olynyk for some points. And like, there's like a lot of ways that he could have managed to get maybe 3-3 and maybe even win. But either way, the Lakers are going to win. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, the greatest duo right now, I feel like in the NBA. It was bound to happen, but they still put up a great fight. I feel like Jimmy Butler proved himself as a leader finally, coming out of that sticky situation in Philadelphia from the whole Brett Brown situation and the coaching situation to coming out of Minnesota with the whole, like, he's a toxic player. You kind of feel like this year with the bubble and how hard he fought, taking like a less than a minute break every game. Like, I feel like this was his year. This was his year. He proved himself. People are saying they should have won Finals MVP as a joke, but I feel like this year was Jimmy Butler's year. He proved himself. He proved himself as a leader, and I feel like he can take this Heat further.
Yeah, I think if Jimmy Butler could clone himself and put himself in the same lineup, I think that team would never lose a game. Because when you watch Jimmy Butler play, it's like it's insane. It was almost like watching Kawhi in the playoffs last year, where it's just like, whenever you needed a shot to go in or you needed someone to grab a rebound or make a clutch pass, the Raptors always looked to Kawhi to do it. And he did it. Yeah. I mean, he hit that amazing shot against the Sixers to send them to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then, he led them all the way to the title game. I know, I'm sorry, Dan, but, and then that's what Jimmy Butler did this year. If someone needed to step up, they gave the ball to Jimmy Butler, and he got the job done. And then the same way it ended for Kawhi last season. But, if I feel like if Jimmy Butler had another amazing playmaker, and I feel like that's what they should do in the offseason, like you said, move Bam to power forward and sign a better center, a taller center, bigger center, a better defender to play center. I think, we'll see this team back in the finals again next season.
I agree, Dom. I agree that they need another playmaker scorer because in the last game of the NBA Finals, Jimmy Butler only had 12 points. He had 10 going into the fourth quarter, and he was 5 from 10 from the field. So he only had 10 shots that whole game. And the Lakers, the reason why they won is because their defense. They stopped them when they switched. They made sure that they weren't going to give him anything easy. And the thing is, even though Duncan Robinson did good, very good the game before, him, Tyler Hero, they're not consistent at all. And it's either that one is up, one's down, or they're both down. And that's the two flaws of them two. They're not consistent. And if Jimmy Butler is getting all this attention on defense and he's not going to be able to shoot as much, it should give them more openings on the wings as a shoot because they have to create their own score. And Jimmy Butler can't do everything for them. Bam did amazing with 25 points. I totally agree with that. Bam is good. I do like him as center because the league is getting more versatile. You have to be quick. You have to be able to shoot. You have to be able to guard the perimeter. So I wouldn't mind keeping him there. If you find some big man who's very good to face like teams that have Anthony Davis, who's a big man, Miles Turner, Embiid, who can work down low, I would try to get one. But the main thing is they have to get Robinson and Hero. They need more scorers. They have to be more consistent. And Jimmy Butler did great. He's awesome. He played 45 minutes pretty much every game. And you could just see how tiring it was and the effect it had on him. But he's a good leader. Miami's a great fit for him, and he's going to bring a lot of joy to the fans in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I feel like Miami's core, since it's so young, it lacks some sort of confidence. Because if you paid attention to Game 6, the main problem was that no one was willing to take a shot. It was kind of like the Sixers, basically, where their offense just basically pump fakes, and it's a great pump fake. Don't get me wrong. The defense jumps, but then they just keep passing back and forth, and then they run a pick and roll, and the pick and roll fails, and then they transition back on defense, and their transition defense just lacks completely. But I feel like if this young core just gets a little bit more training, I feel like this can be a much better finals contender next year.
I agree. I think they would have done a lot better in the finals. Not that they didn't do good, but I think they would have done a lot better had this team been there before. I mean, you look at this team and see how young they really are. And I mean, this was the team that missed the playoffs last year. So realistically, you're looking at maybe Jimmy Butler, Andre Iguodala, Jay Crowder, and Udonis Haslem, who have all, had a lot of playoff experience.
Legend.
In Miami, he's the greatest of all time down there. So I think if, say this team had been in the playoffs 3 years in a row before this season, and they were all used to playing, deep into the season. Granted, this was a different season. No one was really used to this at all, but it's still playoff basketball. It didn't have the same atmosphere, but, it's playoff basketball. And the players know when it's playoff basketball. So I feel like if there were more experience on the team, it would have been a better team. And I'm not saying they would have won the series, but they would have put up, I feel like, more of a fight in that last game at least.
Yeah,
and definitely with that absence of Goran Dragic really played a big role in that deficit.
Yeah, because he's one of the more experienced players. And I mean, if you look at the Lakers, I mean, obviously LeBron James, he's been to a stupid amount of finals, but even like the players coming off the bench, Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, even JaVale McGee.
You got a lot of experience.
These guys have a lot of games in them, a lot of big games in them. And I think that showed. Rondo played really well in Game 6 and, kind of throughout the whole series. So I guess a question I wanted to ask, what's next for the Lakers? Do they have to do anything different? Is it just keeping the team together?
I think they just need to hope that Anthony Davis accepts his player option, which I imagine he will, but wouldn't that be crazy? Maybe he's like, oh, I don't want to come back and
go to Chicago. I think
somewhere else.
A rumor.
Yeah.
His hometown.
But I don't see any way he doesn't. I imagine he will. I imagine he signs long term. After that too. I think he'll probably end up playing the rest of his career in Los Angeles unless something very weird happens. But I imagine Anthony Davis will be a Laker for a while, and I imagine that team will probably say the same. They probably got some guy. I don't know.
They should trade him?
That guy's building houses the entire playoffs. So
yeah.
But I think they're probably going to sign maybe more role players. I think they probably have some guys on like 1-year deals, so they're not going to bring back, and they're going to bring in different guys.
Mm-hmm.
So
As long as it's like for like if you can, a guy like Danny Greenleaf, just get like another guy like him, like just experienced dudes,
Yeah.
and maybe like if you
Danny
have
Green's role was fine. It's just they needed they needed more consistency from him.
like they don't.
They don't
Maybe
lack
if
anything. Yeah.
I don't think they have many draft picks because of Anthony Davis trade. So,
Mm-hmm.
but like you don't. It's not like you need all these young guys. Just keep bringing in guys like Danny Green on 1-year
Yeah.
deals. Just complement LeBron and AD, who are the core of your team. So
Do you think
I
they
think
should
the Lakers will be fine.
continue? Do you think they should continue training Kyle Kuzma or just trade him?
I think they
Yeah.
could use him as a trade asset. In all honesty, I think they're probably not going to get nothing big out of him. They're not going to get some young stud or proven veteran out of them. But you can get a decent role player to come in, play alongside LeBron and AD. And
Mhm.
you know what? They'll probably do a better job than Kuzma did, because granted, I didn't watch a whole lot of the finals. I'll admit it, but I didn't hear that guy's name once. So
Yeah, he went 0 for 5 in Game 5 or Game 6 from 3-pointer.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not gonna sit here and slander the guy saying he's a bad player, because let's be real, he's in the NBA and I'm sitting here making a podcast. So,
And he has played well in the past, but
of
now,
course, yeah, I think he had a pretty decent season last year. So I'm not gonna say he's the worst player in the world, but I think for the Lakers, what would be smart for them is to use him as a trade piece and find someone who would fit better.
Mm-hmm. Right.
yeah, and I'm sure a team would be willing to take a punt on him, like especially if like we're saying if the Lakers want to get like an older role player,
Yeah,
and they're like, we'll give you Kyle Kuzma. It's just why not do it for that other team?
Yeah, and I think
exactly.
Kyle Kuzma won MVP in the summer league. I feel like he has a lot of skills. He just needs more training, and like I feel like he fit well on a different team. I think the Lakers doesn't really match with him really because he doesn't really fit in that role. I feel like the team really just needs more role players instead of like young studs. I feel like, but yeah,
Yeah,
Kyle
he
Kuzma could be a
doesn't
good
fit the
trade piece.
role.
I feel.
He
Yeah.
doesn't fit the role. Before LeBron, or when LeBron was hurt, you did see glimpses of him like having 30-point games and these big games. It's because I think like after his first season, he kind of got to his head like, all right, I'm kind of a big shot now, so I'm gonna have to score 20 to 30 a game. And then LeBron came and kind of took that like power away from him. So I do think if a team that he can maybe not lead, but be like the big shot, be like that leading scorer that they need to give the ball with 20 seconds left to hit that game winner, I think that would be a good fit for him. Somewhere
I feel
young
like
or undeveloped.
a good trade would be Dario for Kyle Kuzma on the
I
Suns.
don't know how much Dario would do for the Lakers.
Yeah, but he's just like a
He
role
doesn't
player
need to
they
do
need,
much.
right?
That's the
He
thing.
doesn't. Yeah, I think Anthony. I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think before LeBron got there, I think Kuzma had a lot of potential. I think had they kept that same team where it was like Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, had they
Josh
kept
Hart.
those guys, like flashback to summer 2018, they never signed LeBron. LeBron goes somewhere else. I think if they keep that team eventually ends up, becoming a good core. They all develop nicely into good players, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that they definitely would have won a championship within 3 to 4 years. They might have, who knows? But I think they would have been a solid team. I think we would have saw them every year in the playoffs at least the 5 seed, maybe, if not a 6 seed. Because I think, in all honesty, I think the Pelicans won that Anthony Davis trade. Like I know how good of a player Anthony Davis is, but I think the haul they got in return, I think Brandon Ingram is. I think he's a great player now. I think he's
I
only going to get
agree.
better. I think
Pelicans have
his
the most
ceiling is
potential.
incredibly high. I like Lonzo Ball, and I mean they got Zion, and he's guaranteed to be the next best player. So I like what they've got in New Orleans, and I'm not going to say the trade was a loss for the Lakers, because it was a win. They got a title out of it, so it was a win-win trade for both teams.
They needed to do it because of LeBron. If LeBron wasn't on the team and they just did that trade for Anthony Davis, then I 100% agree with you. But because LeBron is there, they need, LA has won a title in 10 years. That was the thing. They signed LeBron, they want to win a title. It was, similar to like, it's different sport, but like Juventus signing Cristiano Ronaldo.
Correct.
It's like the goal is to win in the short term. So I feel like they got
and that's what you want when you sign a guy like that.
When LeBron retires, they can build around Anthony Davis again. So it won't be,
right.
So
Well,
I feel like it was a
mean,
win-win for both teams.
oh, it was definitely a win-win. I think to that point where LeBron eventually retires, it might be a struggle. I don't know what their draft picks are looking like, but they don't have many young guys on that team right now that they can develop into nice rotational players and starting players.
Rondo's going to be retiring. I feel like soon as LeBron James. You got like who else? Andre. Announce his name.
Well, you look at their team. They got Danny Green, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Caruso. We're looking at Jared Dudley, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Quinn Cook, JaVale McGee. I mean, you're not looking at any of those guys and be like, okay, I can keep this guy around and, he can be starting insert position here in 5 years. Because realistically, in 5 years, most of those guys probably won't even be in the league anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe you can look at playing Caruso for a bit longer, but I'm not sure how much he's going to help you. I think if you can find a better option, you take it. Caruso's a good player, but I think if you can find a better option, you take it.
Yeah.
But they don't have guys like I don't want Danny Green in 5 years. I don't want Dwight Howard in 5 years. Like those guys are going to be old. They're going to not be nearly as good as they are now.
Squad building could happen in 5 years. So
well, that's true, but like they don't have. I don't know the entire details of it. Basketball is not my number one sport that I'm aware of. I don't know how much they gave up to get Anthony Davis. I know it was a lot. I don't know how much it was in draft picks. Maybe someone could help me out there, but I'm not aware of how many first round picks they have within the next couple of years.
They have one this year. That's the 13th pick, so they got into the lottery.
They have the 13th pick this year.
Yeah. And then they'll probably
it says the Pelicans have the 13th pick this year.
Oh yeah, I meant the Lakers. My fault.
The Lakers do have the 28th pick this year.
Yeah.
I'm not, too honed in on college sports either, so I couldn't tell you who's going to be available to 28 to get. But that's where you start. Look at this 28th pick and be like, all right, listen, we got to try and keep this guy around for a while. Maybe, send him to the G League or something like that, have him develop nicely. But don't look at him and be like, oh, I could package him with Kyle Kuzma and, get this guy who's going to be good now. Because as cool as it is winning now, it's also pretty cool to be like, all right, in 5 years' time, we're still going to be a winner.
Right.
It's like I look at the Suns right now who are going to be like, okay, we got a good chance to be in the playoffs next year. I think they put them in the bubble and they went undefeated and they didn't make the playoffs. What was the point of that?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate. I think that team, they should have done something to be like, okay, let's get this team in the playoffs. Let's work something. Another play-in game. Like they had the one between the Trailblazers and the Grizzlies, but I think, they went undefeated. That team was, I don't know, a weird amount of games out of the 8th seed when they got into the bubble, and they end up, I think they finished as the 10 seed technically. But I see them next year. I'd put money they make the playoffs next year. I think they can get an 8 seed or a 7 seed next year,
especially with the 10th pick this year.
Oh, definitely. And I think that team's only going to get better. They're only going to go up. They're not going to be like, okay, well, listen, we got the 8 seed, so why don't we trade Devin Booker for a first-round pick next year? That's a stupid move, okay?
Yeah.
They're only going to get better. I mean, they've got Devin Booker locked up for a while, and the team's young, too.
Kelly Oubre.
You look at Kelly Oubre, you look at DeAndre Ayton. You look at, they're going to be good. They're going to be good for 5 years. Who even knows? Maybe 10 years, they're still a great team. And who knows, they could win titles in between there. They could win Western Conference titles. They could win the NBA titles. Devin Booker, I feel like, could develop into an MVP eventually. So, I mean, like I said, congratulations to the Lakers. You're winning now. I think, there's a good chance you win again next year and maybe the year after that, depending on how things go. And, but what are you going to do after that? Is it going to be 10 more years and, no playoffs?
I feel like the Lakers do follow this kind of pattern where they get back-to-backs or three-peats, and then they just have this 10-year break of no playoffs or no championships, and then they just go back. So I understand what you're saying with LeBron and AD, but I feel like they should just target more younger players and try to build a young core and establish more experienced players. For now, it's great, but establish a young core so that by the time LeBron and AD aren't there in the picture, that they can still wrap this team for at least a playoffs contention.
All right, so we just talked about what the Lakers should do. We've talked about what the Heat should do. Why don't we get a bigger picture of this and look at the rest of the NBA? All right, so we've got we don't have a huge free agency class this year. I mentioned earlier that Anthony Davis does have a player option, so he could become a free agent if he really wanted to. But again, I doubt he's going to. I imagine he's going to be returning to LA. We've then got Brandon Ingram, who is a restricted free agent. So unless something really weird happens, we're going to see him in New Orleans again next year. And now the biggest name who's unrestricted is Fred VanVleet. I would personally say he's going to be back in Toronto. Anyone else have any other predictions of where he could go?
I agree with you. I
I
think
would
he's
say
going to stay in
Toronto.
Toronto.
They love him there.
100%.
I think he loves it there.
He's from there, I'm pretty sure too. Like I think he's gonna.
Drake wouldn't allow it, so I think.
You make a good point there, Dan.
Mhm.
As
I
Dan's
think
getting ready to
also
play Xbox.
on that list is also Danilo. Is that how you say it? Danilo Gallinari?
Danilo Gallinari. He
Yeah.
is on the list.
And
I'm not
I
sure
feel
if he's
like,
restricted
and
or
recently he
unrestricted.
had a quote, or not a quote, but he was quoted saying he cares more about winning than contracts because he's not 20 years old anymore. So I feel like Danilo Gallinari could be moving to a different team soon.
Well, he is 32 years of age, and he made $22 million the past season playing for a Thunder team who was the 5th seed, I believe.
Yeah.
And that Thunder team's young.
That
They're
Thunder
getting
team,
better.
and they were really good. They were a team
Mhm.
who were supposed to, have a top 5 pick in the draft this year, and they ended up, and I think then they pushed the Rockets to a Game 7, I believe, in that first round.
Yeah.
Chris
Mhm.
Paul, man, just
Yeah.
I know the
makes
core of the
everyone
team's young,
better.
but he really was.
Well,
the
there's
big
another
difference.
thing. Let's get into that real quick. Chris Paul, what happens with him? Does he stay with the Thunder this offseason?
No.
Does he get shipped out? What's
I
going to
feel
happen
like-
with him?
I feel like because Thunder's core is so young, I feel like they won't be keeping Chris Paul. I feel like there's going to be a major trade piece for him. But at the same time, like Chris Paul has a lot of years left. Not a lot, but like a good amount of years left. He's very skilled. He's a good veteran.
He doesn't
I feel
rely
like-
on his athleticism to
Yeah.
you
He's
know what I
more
mean?
skilled. Like,
His IQ is insane. So I feel like he can play very, as he's getting older. Because I think it.
longevity. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think he has two good all-star years next year and then the year after. I think you have to keep him until 2 years from now because this year's draft is not as strong as the draft after. That'll have nice guards that he can when he's getting older and he's not going to play as much, where he can teach them and try to make them the best.
Oh, speaking of drafts, I have a quick question. Do you guys think that the Warriors trading D'Angelo Russell for Andrew Wiggins and that 2021 pick was a good idea? I feel like
Sure.
I love D'Angelo Russell, but I feel like that was a good idea because the 2021 draft, I believe, is they implemented the 2-year NCAA rule where you only need to be 2 years into college, and then I feel like that draft class is going to be really packed. So I feel like with the number 2 overall pick and that 2021 pick, I feel like with those they can really use that to trade for Giannis for the Warriors. I feel like.
I don't think the Warriors will be trading for Giannis.
I
think that's a ludicrous idea. I feel like if the Bucks are going to trade Giannis, it's going to be for first-round picks for the next 40 years, and whoever the best player is on that team, they're trading him to.
Yeah, but the 2021 year is stacked with all these players. They're going to be
Right.
the first.
But I
But he's
think
not worth
Milwaukee.
that
I
much.
think Milwaukee is confident enough to
Yes,
where
he
they're
is.
going to re-sign him.
Is he unrestricted or restricted?
He'll be unrestricted next year when he's a free agent.
I don't think he's going to sign with the Bucks again, though.
He either goes to the Bucks or right before we started the podcast, now we and Dan were talking about him going to the Mavericks.
Or the Heat. They're the 3 spots, nowhere else.
Do you imagine Giannis and Luka Doncic on the same team?
And Kristaps.
I mean, yeah, and Kristaps, of course, but that would just
That's
be
insane. That's a title contender right there.
that would be
automatically.
insane.
I already like the Mavericks within the next couple of years to win a title. I think if they add Giannis, it's just automatic at that point.
Yeah, I mean they'll just have to play some salary cap magic because
I mean,
Luka's on
listen,
his
do
rookie
what the Lakers
contract.
just did. Do what the Lakers just did.
Yeah,
They're paying
Kristaps
Anthony
on a
Davis
max.
and LeBron James, and they're not really paying anyone else besides maybe Kuzma has a pretty decent contract, or maybe
Yeah, I was saying
Rondo,
earlier
one of those guys, is a
they
contract
still
like
have
that.
the Mavericks. They have Tim Hardaway, he's making 19 million or something like that, and they have a bunch of guys that are making 8 million, 7. They have a lot of guys that are
Yeah.
making that.
Yeah,
which
I
can
think,
take instead of
there's
guys
teams
on
out there that'll take
$2,
contracts
$3
like
million
that
contracts
in return for draft picks.
Yeah,
So you
I
can
think Dwight
trade
Powell's making
those
12
bad
million.
contracts pretty easily in today's NBA, especially where most of the teams are rebuilding. Teams will take on bad contracts like that in order to get draft picks in return. It works out.
But what would the Mavericks trade in return for?
What do you mean?
What
for
if
Giannis.
I think we're in this situation, they're waiting to sign him.
him.
Oh, sign. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
The
they
only
don't. I
trade-
mean, they don't have much to trade.
They don't.
Yeah.
The
Realistically.
only trade I saw, and a lot of NBA executives believed what I've been seeing on social media, that Giannis, if he doesn't stay with the Bucks, he is going to the Heat. But if the Bucks do realize that, they're gonna make sure they trade him. And a mock trade I saw was that they trade him to the Heat for Bam, Robinson, Hero, and draft picks, which is a lot. It's basically that whole Heat team. But then you'll have Butler and you'll have Antetokounmpo all together. So I don't know. I think it's a decent trade. It depends what the draft picks are going to be.
Well, here's my take on it. So we get to next season, and the Bucks are the number 1 seed in the East at the trade deadline, and all of a sudden, Giannis is like, "Listen, I'm not going to re-sign with you guys, regardless of what happens." I don't think you trade him. I think you keep him. I think you try and win a title that year. If anything, you bring more pieces in to guarantee you can win a title next year, and then maybe you can convince him in the offseason to come back. But if not, at least you got the title on his way out, and the team is still pretty decent. It's not the worst team ever. I think without Giannis, they're not as good as they are now, but they're still a pretty decent team. You look at that team, and I like Chris Middleton. I think Dante DiVincenzo has got a pretty decent potential in the NBA. If that team can maybe bring in another decent veteran, they could become
Chris
even
Paul?
better.
Question mark?
I don't know. They'd have to do some
Yeah.
messing around with the books a little bit, but that could be an interesting move if they did that.
I mean, the Bucks have been the best team in the regular season for the past 2 or 3 years. So it's not the regular season that they really need to worry about. It's just performing in the playoffs. So I don't think. I mean, they're not mad that they have Giannis. I mean, he's won MVP the past 2 years, Defensive Player of the Year. It's just, I don't know. He just needs to perform better in the playoffs. And I think, yeah, I agree. Like, just give it another shot with him. I don't, it's just something you have to bet on your best player, just, having a better run at it. He can't play worse, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think you should blow up the whole team. Neither. I don't know if Miami should blow up their whole team too, just for this. So I don't really like that trade for anybody. Really.
Yeah, that didn't sound like the greatest of trades. I feel like, Giannis is a great player, obviously, but I don't know. If I'm Miami, I don't know if morally I can give up that much for one guy in return.
Especially with all they sacrifice for the team.
Yeah. And then that leaves you in like a pretty decent hole. I mean, he mentioned, Tyler Herro, and I think did he say Duncan Robinson in that trade too? Those are,
And Bam Adebayo.
two pretty valuable guys. And yeah, I was going to get the Bam. I think those are two pretty valuable guys in Robinson and Herro that if they're gone, then that leaves like a decent hole in the lineup and the rotation.
And the chemistry.
And especially, sorry. Well, I was just saying, like, especially for the Bucks too. Say they get that core of the Heat. So it's the core of the Heat, and then like Chris Middleton and like Brook Lopez. And is that team better than the Heat was this year? Is Chris Middleton better than Jimmy Butler? No. So it's like it doesn't really make sense to me at all.
I agree. All right, let's keep looking at the free agents. DeMar DeRozan, he's got a player option. I don't know if he'll go back to the Spurs. I feel like he could, but I don't know if it's not like a guarantee like Anthony Davis is. What are you guys' thoughts on that, DeMar DeRozan?
I think he might go back to the Raptors just because he loved it there, and now he sees that
they love him. So
they love him, and he never really he was upset when he got traded, and I think that'll be a huge thing for them to get. It'll be that third person, and like we said, I do think VanVleet will sign back, so you'll have Lowry, VanVleet, Siakam, who's developed, and then you have Valanciunas for center, or not Valanciunas, Marcus Gasol for center, and then he'll be that three. He'll be that wing player, and I think that'll be one of the best teams in the league. Another place I saw is the Hornets. I know they're not the best, but they're very young, and
they have Cat.
I got a lot of money.
They have Cat. They have a young core, Devontae Graham, Rozier, PJ Washington, and then now they have the top 5 draft pick this year, and they're going to get someone young so he can be that star player,
Yeah,
30
veteran to lead.
points a game, teach the young players and build them up if he doesn't really care about, I need this championship now and I'm just going to go take a pay cut if I want to get a championship.
I agree. I think he would take a discount if he went back to the Raptors because I don't know how much money they can throw his way.
They probably don't have much.
Not as I think he made like 27 million last year. Yeah, he made close to 28 million last year. So I don't think he's gonna get that type of money from the Raptors. So I think he would have to take a discount, and I think he'd be willing to take a discount from the Raptors. Gordon Hayward, he's got a player option for this year. Anthony, you think he takes it?
I think he wants to take it. He loves Brad Stevens, been together since Butler, but if as the Celtics, I wouldn't want him to. If he takes, I would want him to trade him. I think has a value that you can. He does get hurt a lot now, which is a shame because he was an all-star in Utah, but you don't see that player. He's not as confident. His shot is not as good, but I think they could trade him if he comes back. Trade him to the Sixers possibly to give them a veteran presence. It's another wing player, and then for some reason the Celtics want a big man, and they kind of want Al Horford to come back. So that's a possible trade. Al Horford and Hayward.
It's so weird. I wouldn't get that.
I think the thing about trading him is he's going to make a little over $34 million this year alone.
Exactly, he's way too
I don't
expensive.
know how many teams are going to take that money on.
He's way too expensive for the Celtics.
Sixers aren't going to take it.
Jason
Sixers
Tatum.
most certainly
They have
will not
enough
take that
terrible
contract.
contracts.
Jason
They're
Tatum's about to
already
get this
tied.
max
It's
deal.
close to $300 million between Al Horford and Tobias Harris. I don't think they have $34 million to spend on Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, just to play the bench. Oh my God, it was one.
And I didn't even mention, how much they're already paying Embiid and Simmons, which is, again, an absurd amount of money.
I don't think the
even wanna
Celtics
talk
should
about
keep Hayward. They already are going to get rid of Cantor, so they're getting money because they're going to have to pay Jason Tatum that max deal. They're trying to get a big cap because 2 summers from now or the summer after that, there's going to be some free agents, and I think they have a plan in the future to sign someone big.
All right, next guy, Montrezl Harrell. He's an unrestricted free agent, free to go wherever you'd like. Any predictions on where he may go with Frozen Tennyson? I mean, my immediate guess would probably be he'll just return to the Clippers. I don't know. Much
he was
about,
6th man of the year, right? Or did
he was 6th man of the year?
Okay,
he's good. He's a big.
I mean, I
He's
feel like
very
there's
good, yeah.
there's going to be
Very
a
defensive.
decent market for him. I just don't know for certain teams if he's going to outprice himself.
I think he got paid $6 million this past season. I think he's going to want a big pay raise. Honestly, I think he's probably going to go into free agency expecting like $20 million out of teams.
Yeah, so it's just like for teams that are, contenders that are maybe a bit cap struck, he may price himself out of a move, but maybe a team that's a bit more desperate, maybe like a middle of pack team that has a bit more cap space, they may make him like their marquee signing of the summer. I don't think he's a bad player. He's definitely a good player, but
he's a great player.
I just think he might outprice himself with the move.
Yeah, I think that's going to probably be his downfall. He's going to go into free agency and he'll be like, listen, I feel like it'll be similar to what happened with Jadeveon Clowney in football this past season.
Exactly.
He went in there looking for way too much money and no one was going to give it to him. So he didn't sign with a team until, what was it, maybe like in August did he sign with the Titans?
Yeah.
So
doesn't
I
have a sack yet either.
Yeah,
I think he stays with the Clippers, or he's been training with Stanley Johnson on the Raptors, and he's been talking to all the Raptors players. So that could be a potential spot. But I think I agree. He's gonna think he's like the man. He wants to get paid and all this, but I don't think like a smart team is gonna pay him what he wants.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to go in there, like I said, he's going to look for a lot of money, and then no one's going to give it to him, and then he'll probably, come back to the Clippers on like a 2-year, $20 million deal or something like that. Or maybe he'll take a 1-year deal from some team as like a prove me type of deal.
Yeah, I think he might do that with the Clippers.
So he could end up doing that. But
He's definitely
I
gonna
don't.
get paid more, but I just don't know if he's gonna find the long-term deal.
Listen,
that he
if he
wants.
comes back, say the Clippers sign him to a 1-year, $10 million deal, and he has a great
That's perfectly fine.
he
Yeah.
has a great season. I'm perfectly fine with him next season going into there being like, all right, listen, now I
Mhm.
definitely won $20 million now after that incredible season.
100%.
I agree.
So I think that's a big possibility. I really don't know where else he could go. I think the Clippers is probably where he's going to end up. So
All right.
that's all I have to say about that. Andre Drummond, he's got a player option for a little over $28 million with the Cavs. I think he takes it just because of how much money he would make.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
anyone
I
else.
agree.
I don't think anyone
I
else
think he's
offers
just
him
in it
that
for
much.
the money.
Winning seems like it's never been important to him. He never, he's been with Detroit and now Cleveland.
Yeah.
So I think.
A player we mentioned earlier, Tim Hardaway Jr. He's got a player option for this season, close to $19 million. Again, I think the same with Andre Drummond. I think he takes the money.
I don't think he's he's not the worst, but
I think he's a decent player. I think he's got a good
he's just gonna
3-point
take the
shot.
money.
I think he suits Luka pretty nicely. So, next one we got Marcus Morris. He's unrestricted. He made $15 million this past season. I don't know who's crazy enough to pay him that much money this season.
I think whoever feels like they're going to face LeBron, because that's why the Clippers signed him. That's why the Celtics signed him when LeBron was on the Cavs. Whoever wants to get that defender on LeBron, that's what they're going to do.
I agree. I think he does bring a very good defensive presence in, but
And his
besides
shooting
that,
got much better. His shooting did get better.
yeah, I think it did as well. I think like I said, he's a great defensive presence, and like you said, to match up against LeBron would be very important, especially for a team in the Western Conference who could run into him in the playoffs and just to help out during the regular season. But I don't know if I want to pay him $15 million.
I got a player for you,
help
Dom,
with
though.
defense.
Well, I want to know what you think. Joey Harris.
Go right ahead. Joe Harris.
He's one of the best shooters.
For who? Just for like in general, what do I think of him?
Who do you think will pick him up?
I think he probably he's on the Nets right now. I believe he goes back to the Nets.
You don't think the Sixers will try to get him?
I don't think the Sixers can afford him, honestly. Because what the Sixers are going to do this offseason is going to be mind-blowing. I think, pieces are going to be moved. I feel like there could be a trade that makes people unhappy, whether it's, Ben Simmons getting traded or Joel Embiid getting traded. I think something along that line is going to happen, where the Sixers get completely, take a complete 180 this season. I think that Joe Harris, he'll probably, I don't know what his contract was like this year. I would imagine probably somewhere around the 10 million range, maybe less.
Yeah, 10, 12, probably.
But I would say Joe Harris would probably go back to the Nets. I mean, unless you guys have other places you think he'd probably go, I don't have any off the top of my mind where Joe Harris could possibly go.
I don't really got anything.
All right. Next one's a pretty big one.
I just had a weird power surge.
Tennyson, it's okay. We were able to hold our own while you were gone, but we're happy to have you back. Next player, Goran Dragic. He's unrestricted. He is 34. He made a little over $19 million this past season. I think the Heat would probably bring him back just because he's been there for a while, and I feel like Jimmy probably likes him too. So I would imagine that the Heat are going to bring him back. And again, I don't know how much of a market he's going to have. Because again, I feel like he'll probably be like one of those Montrezl Harrell guys. He thinks he's worth a lot more than he actually is. And he won't get that type of money. He'll probably get that type of money from the Heat, but that's about it. But I don't think
he's going to be like Montrezl. Montrezl Harrell is going to be cocky about it. He's a very humble player, and he's a good old veteran that knows I'm not what I was back then. I'm not going to be worth $20 million. If he sees a fair deal, I think we'll take it.
Do you any predictions of where he could go in, or just if he sees something, he's going to go for it?
I think Jimmy Butler wants him back on the Heat. He loves him. They're very good friends. I don't know if the Heat will take him back just because they're trying to save a little bit money because they're going to try.
It's not on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, but I don't know. I saw something. He might go. Maybe the Bucks. The Bucks might want him, but I think that ultimately Jimmy Butler is going to convince the Heat to get him back.
All right. Anyone else? Predictions, Goran Dragic, where he could land?
The Heat, definitely. I feel like they need a veteran presence, and like his absence in the finals was like a huge deficit for the team. So I feel like adding him back in will be a great facet to the team.
Okay. Dan, anything?
I definitely think the Heat as well.
All right, and we'll do one more just for kicks. Hassan Whiteside. He's an unrestricted free agent this offseason. He made a little over $27 million with Portland this past season.
Ooh.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't see him making more than maybe $10 million with any team just because of how poor he's performed these past couple of years. He had maybe 14 good games with the Miami Heat, which earned him a really big contract. And he has not performed the same ever since then. So I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about it because I might be the biggest Hassan Whiteside hater out there. So
you're right. His play style is just is not the way the NBA is going right now. He's more like this young Dwight Howard. I feel like, in my opinion, he's not really needed. He can't shoot. He can't play make. He's only there to get rebounds, but that's not like what centers really are focused on nowadays. I feel like he's just really unskilled. He's overpaid. I hate him a lot too, personally. But yeah.
Listen,
I
I'm
don't
sure
think the
Hassan
Trailblazers
Whiteside, the
take him.
person, is a great man, but the basketball player is just, not for me.
I think a team that needs a big man that because I don't think because the Trailblazers have Zach Collins and they have Nurkic.
Hopefully fully healthy Nurkic for the
Yeah.
whole season
Yes.
because he's really fun to watch. So
I
hopefully
don't
they
think
get
they're
him back.
going to take him back.
The Warriors could use him.
Yeah, say if the Warriors don't draft Wiseman, or if they say, I'll take Hassan Whiteside, I'll get someone else with this draft, or I'll trade that number 2 pick, then I could see that. But just some team that needs that big. But he's not going to get paid $27 million. He's going to get paid a lot less.
He will not get. Again, if I were a team and if I desperately
like
needed him, I
$7
wouldn't
million.
offer him more than $10 million.
Yeah.
All right, so let's bounce to the NBA draft really quick. Let's I don't need your full 60 pick mock draft, but I guess Anthony, let's go to you. You're our college basketball guy. Give me your top 5, I guess.
Top 5. So
If no trades happen, right? If that's what we're going
if no trades happen. Well, so
right.
first Timberwolves, second Warriors, third Hornets, fourth Bulls, fifth Cavaliers.
All right, so 1, even though LaMelo Ball is the best talent in this draft, and I truly believe I think he's going to be the best, but for the Timberwolves, I have to take Anthony Edwards. I think LaMelo and D'Angelo together, they kind of play the same. I don't think that will blend well, so I'll like Edwards, who's going to be ready for catch and shoot, and then or you kick it and then he drives in, takes the baseline, and then if they double him, Karl Anthony Towns will be right there within the block in the 10-foot range. He dishes it to him and he dunks it. I think that'll be a good fit. So I'll say Anthony Edwards 1.
Okay,
2,
before you move on really quick, you mentioned your earlier statement was LaMelo Ball is the best talent in this draft, and I saw interesting reactions from both Dan and Tennyson. Anyone want to collaborate or elaborate on that?
I like LaMelo Ball, but I feel like he's playing in this foreign team. He's playing against
He
people
didn't even
that
play that well.
He
Yeah.
didn't play well to let them to change. He went to the Drew League 2, which is like a league that the NBA players play in their summer, and he was averaging 25 points a game.
I'm pretty, at least
He's getting
in
bigger.
was he in Lithuania, Latvia, and Australia, or something like that?
Australia.
His
Illawarra.
field goal percentage was atrocious. Like, he may have averaged 25, but he took so many shots. So
He's the best. He's getting stronger.
I just don't.
Everyone says he's the best
the
talent.
ball fact. Like, you get LeVar with that, and
Well, who doesn't like LeVar?
I don't mean some LeVar.
LeVar's my favorite ball personally.
Yeah, but I mean, it's drafting him is a lot more of just a organizational commitment than drafting Anthony Edwards.
All right, well, don't look at it as LaMelo Ball, the character. Look at it as
But
LaMelo Ball, the
I still also
basketball
believe
player.
that Anthony Edwards is better than LaMelo Ball. So I will give that.
You agree with Anthony taking Anthony Edwards number 1 to the Timberwolves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 2, the Warriors. I'll take James Wiseman. He only played 3 games in college, 1 full because of the whole scandal and everything at Memphis. But I like him a lot.
He can shoot. Yeah.
He can shoot. He's a lefty, so he'll have that the half-second step before a righty would usually. So I like James Wiseman second. They need a big. I think he'll be a good fit for pick and pop or pick and roll with Curry at the top. So I have him going 2. And then 3, the Hornets at 3. I think they take an I don't know if I'm saying this right. A Nokia Kizue from USC.
Onyeke, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry to him. Your name's hard, but like
Ogunyoka Okongu or something, yeah.
yeah, I think it'll be him or Obi Toppin. They need that big man. I don't think Obi as
Who's
much
your big
because they
man
got
right now? I'm pretty sure he's terrible. What's his
yeah,
name?
Zeller.
Zeller.
So they
Yeah,
need they're gonna
Frank.
I
upgrade
I think
Young.
the Warriors desperately need a big man. I
That's
can't
what
remember the last
Wiseman.
Warrior center who was
That's
like
what
really
Wiseman.
dominant.
Bogey.
And
No.
I don't know. I can't put Bogut in that conversation.
No, Bogey Cousins.
Oh, well, I mean, how much did he even play with them? He missed he missed most of that season. Didn't he show up in the playoffs a little bit? And then I mean
remember when it happened. I
they
thought
didn't
I was
win a
like,
ring that
wow,
year.
this is just how did they manage to get Boogie Cousins?
Yeah, they signed like
And
a
then
1-year, $5 million
it
deal
just-
when he was getting offers from like everyone else, like 5 years, like
and it
200
just
million.
didn't work out because he was injured the whole season.
Yeah,
I think he'll be a good fit for the Hornets. I
agree. I think Wiseman's a good pick for them at 2.
And then number 4 for the Bulls, I'm taking LaMelo. And I think that's a steal. LaMelo will be good, and the Bulls have been
Kobe
looking
White
to.
at 7 last year.
I know, but
Right?
LaMelo or the Bulls have been looking to like possibly ship out Levine. He's only got, I think, 2 years left on his contract, and a trade that could happen is Levine for Luke Kennard in the 7th pick this year, which is the Pistons. So that's one. But LaMelo at the top, they have. Say if they do keep Levine, they'll have him as a 2. And then they'll have Wendell Carter, who's young, Laurie Markkinen young, and then they're just like that one spot away. They'll develop. They just got a new coach, Billy Donovan from the Thunder, who
Very good coach.
very good coach. You saw what he did with the Thunder this year. So I'll take LaMelo at 4, and I think that's a steal for the Bulls. And then for the Cavs at 5, I think they'll take Denji and Nevada, something like that. He's an international player. He's a wing. They already have their 2 guards with Garland and Sexton. And then they have like Cedi Osman, who's getting there, and they're going to sign Drummond back, which we think. So I think they'll need that wing. He's a nice shooter. He'll get down in post. He kind of remind me of a younger Kevin Love. And so I think they'll grab him at 5.
Isaac Okoro.
I think it's going to be higher. Like at Auburn, like he did do very good and he got tremendously better, but I don't see him being that. I think that they're going to get Denji and Nevada.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this draft class isn't too crazy, but it's decent.
Anybody want to mix up the top 5? Any changes, suggestions?
I don't know. I don't know if LaMelo going to Chicago makes most sense. I think though that there's 100% going to be a trade that occurs.
Look for the Knicks. They love LaMelo. They're going to try to do a
Knicks
trade.
move, honestly.
They're going to try to do a trade.
Do you think they could pair up LaMelo and Julius Randle next year?
They want to get RJ
so
Barrett together. So
what happened? Can we talk about that real quick? What happened to Julius Randle? I feel like that guy was the future of the Lakers at one point. I don't know what happened.
He went to the Pelicans, right? And then he went to.
He did, yeah. Didn't he get hurt when
decently
he was with the
well.
Lakers? Didn't he get hurt with the Lakers? Or am I tripping?
Just a whole.
I do remember him going to the Pelicans though.
I feel like he played well, and then he got to move to New York.
Yeah. Poor guy. All right, I guess let's move on from basketball.
Yep.
So all right, I guess let's touch upon the UFC really quick. Marlon Moraes and Corey Sandhagen. I'm sorry, I blanked for a minute. Corey Sandhagen, main event just the other night. Sandhagen won. Pretty dominant fashion. He won in. I believe it was a knockout in the second round. And it was a pretty decent card. It was highlighted by Joaquin Buckley's insane spinning kick, which I imagine all of you have seen already. It's been posted all over the internet. It was insane, and he's actually going to have a fight now on November 21st. I'm not exactly sure who his opponent is, but I imagine the UFC is going to, milk that one for what it is because of how much they're going to play that clip over and over again.
Dana.
Edson Barboza put on a amazing performance. He was on a pretty decent skid, so it was good to see him get a win. And I guess let's just hop right into the main event. Marlon Moraes, I think I mentioned in the last podcast, I think he was the Cincinnati number one contender. He was ranked number one. I think if he won the fight, that it was his title. It was for him to go challenge Petr Yan for the title. But now that he has lost, just like I said, Aljamain Sterling is now getting a title shot December 12th at UFC 256. So it's going to be Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling for the bantamweight title then. I think for Marlon Moraes, what he should do is he needs to look. I think he should try and bounce back quickly. I think he needs to capitalize. If he get another win, then that puts him right back in the conversation. I feel like I don't know what's going on entirely with maybe he could get Cody Garbrandt next. Maybe if he's willing to take on a fight with Chito Vera, he could get him next. Maybe he could look at Pedro Munoz, get him next. I think he needs to just get back in there quickly. I don't think it really matters who he's going up against. I think if he gets back in there quickly and he can make a name for himself again, then I think he puts himself right back in the conversation to, possibly take on whoever's going to get whoever loses between Yan and Sterling, unless it's Yan, then there's going to be a rematch. But if Sterling ends up losing that fight, then he could go get Sterling. Those guys fought back in December of 2017, and Moraes actually won that fight. That was the last time Aljamain Sterling actually lost. He's been on a 5-fight winning streak since then. So pretty impressive from both fighters to, keep up the level of competitiveness since then. And then Dan, we were talking about this earlier. Sandhagen, where does he go next? We talked about him possibly fighting TJ Dillashaw when he comes out of his suspension, which is over in January. So I think it was a win-win for both guys. Realistically, I think if Sandhagen wins, that's a great win for him. He gets a title shot immediately. And I think if Dillashaw comes back and he's able to win after a 2-year layoff and beat a guy like Sandhagen, who's on a roll like he is now, that puts him right back in title contention too.
I agree. 100%.
And then I think the last guy I had mentioned was Dom Cruz. I think, it's been really weird with Dom Cruz. He fought Cody Garbrandt in December 2016. He got absolutely murked by him. And then he had that layoff, that big layoff that ended back in May when he fought Henry Cejudo, and he lost that fight. If you ask him, he didn't lose that fight, but he lost the fight. And then, I'm not sure when we're going to see him again. Like I said, that fight was in May, and he's just commentating now again. But I think if he could come out and he decides he wants to fight Sandhagen, if he can beat Sandhagen, then like it would do for TJ Dillashaw, it'd put him right back in the title contention, honestly. And between Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling, whoever wins that fight, if it's Petr Yan, then he gets to take on Sandhagen next. If he wins whatever his next fight is, or he gets to take on, again, it could be Dillashaw. And then here's another interesting guy, Frankie Edgar. He went down to 135 and he fought Pedro Munoz, and he beat him up, won that fight. So, Frankie Edgar could be tossing his name in there too. He might be looking to get a 135 title shot eventually. And I think that's all I have to say about that card. I think I do want to say one thing really quickly. Right at the beginning of the show, Dana White, he's a big rock guy. It was a very nice tribute to Eddie Van Halen at the beginning of the show. I think that was a great thing by the UFC. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen.
Rest in peace.
And then let's look at this week's upcoming card, headlined by Brian Ortega versus the Korean Zombie, in a fight that I think is going to be an absolute barn burner. I feel like those guys are just going to throw and throw and throw, and someone's going to get knocked out, I think. This is Brian Ortega's first fight since he lost his title shot against Max Holloway, which was in I think December of 2018, I believe. So it's been a while for him. So it's good to see him back in there. And yes, that fight was in December of 2018. So it's good to see Brian Ortega back. He was on a really good roll, and then he met Max Holloway, and Max Holloway butchered his face. So it's good to see him back, and I think it's really good to see the Korean Zombie back. I feel like this could be a featherweight eliminator right here. I feel like whoever wins this fight gets the number one contender shot. Dan, back me up.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, both guys need a win. I'm not the biggest fan of Brian Ortega purely because of the Modelo Especial commercials, but I mean, both guys are good fighters, and it could, really propel them back to where they were.
I agree. I also really like the co-main event of this card. Former strawweight women's champion Jessica Andrade moves up to flyweight to challenge Caitlin Chokagian, who challenged Valentina Shevchenko. I'm not exactly sure when that fight was, but she got, like you run into Valentina Shevchenko, she's gonna kick your face in. This is exactly what she did to her. But again, this is another title eliminator, I believe. I think this is Andrade's first fight at 125, and if she wins the fight, she said she wants Shevchenko, which is that's a tall order right there to challenge Shevchenko. But I think the winner of this fight gets that fight, and probably gets their face kicked in, because I think Shevchenko is the best women fighter that there is right now. Yeah, you can at me because I think she's better than Amanda Nunes.
Bold.
It's very bold, Dan. I know how much you like Amanda Nunes, but I think I really think Valentina Shevchenko is the best female fighter the UFC has to offer right now. All right. So anyone want to make some picks? Main event: Ortega or Korean Zombie?
Ortega.
No. Interesting. Okay, Anthony's going Ortega. Anyone else?
Sung Jong.
Korean Zombie. Okay,
I'll
Dan.
go Korean Zombie as well.
Dan's going Korean Zombie. I'm going to take Ortega. I don't know. I might regret that pick, but I think Ortega's got it. I think when it comes to, stand and bang like these guys are probably going to do, I think Ortega wins. Because, I mean, Korean Zombie is very good. But I think when it comes, if it were going to be a more technical fight, if it was going to go to the ground or go to the clinch game, then I think, the Korean Zombie probably have it. But I got to take Ortega in a stand and bang. All right. So let's move on. Get everyone else back in the conversation here. Tennyson has froze again, but it's okay because let's talk about the NFL. All right.
Yes.
Go ahead, Dan. I know you got a lot lined up.
Very, 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 very busy week. I mean, this week was extremely entertaining, I gotta say.
It was.
I will all the primetime games, starting with the Thursday Chicago and Tampa game, all the way to the Tuesday night game between the Titans and the Bills, even though it was a blowout. I mean, they were insane. The Seahawks game, the Chargers and Saints game going to overtime, all really great games. But the games I kind of wanted to point out, I mentioned it on last week's podcast with the Raiders and the Chiefs. I knew it would be a close one, but I saw that the Chiefs are going to come out on top, and the Raiders win 40-32.
Love to see it.
Derek Carr shredded
It was a very good
the
game by the
Chiefs
Raiders.
defense.
It was funny because I was at my dad's house watching all the games on Sunday, and we're watching the pre-games, and he's telling me about how much he loves Gruden and how Gruden's going to beat the Chiefs right here. And I'm like, Dad, you're crazy. There's no way the Chiefs lose this game. And every single time that game would come on, he'd be like, look, Gruden's winning. And
Words from a wise man.
Words from a very wise man. So, good pick, Dad. Maybe I'll let you make the bets this weekend.
Real right.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, continue.
Another game that I would like to talk about is the Dolphins absolutely smoking the 49ers. The 49ers at home, Jimmy Garoppolo's coming back. They just they did lose to the Eagles, which is a bit disappointing for them. But they were like, oh, they could blame it on quarterback play. Nick Mullins threw it right to Singletary for a pick six. So, they were feeling, I guess, pretty good about themselves. Monster came back as well. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, man, he went off. I think 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, something along that.
Yeah,
Like,
he had a monster game. He looked
just
That was very
absolutely.
important for him too.
he looked like he
'cause
was playing
doing
in a
that
Super
good.
Bowl. He looked like he was playing
Yeah,
in the
it
Super
was
Bowl.
insane. So they smoked the Niners, and Jimmy G got benched his first game back in. He got benched, and it's
Yep.
just
I
you
think
know
they were saying it was like, listen, we just want to keep him safe, but I feel like there was more behind it. I feel as if let's get right into that actually. I feel like Jimmy G is not the answer for the 49ers.
well, I don't
No.
want to overreact too much because of this
Yeah.
game, but I will say
His first game
especially
back.
because it's his first game back from injury, and their offense is predicated around the run, so you don't really need him to do that much. So I'm not going to overreact too much. I don't think he's this great quarterback or anything, but if he can game manage like his big buddy Tom Brady does, then I think that they'll be fine.
Anthony wasn't too fond of that comment, I think.
That's why I made it. But yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I'm not coming out of this game. I'm not as disappointed in the 49ers as I am impressed by the Dolphins. That's kind of my takeaway from this
I agree.
game.
That was a great game by the Dolphins. They, covered every side of the ball perfectly, and it showed. I feel
Coming
really,
together,
I
their
feel
whole
really
plan was-
bad if you played the 49ers defense in fantasy.
Yeah,
Because
-5, I believe.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, Anthony, because you had the Bills defense against me yesterday, and they got like -3.
Mm.
I
So
know.
that was pretty
a
disappointing.
bad
by
week
you.
to
Congratulations
be-
to all those who played the Ravens defense because they had
I
a really
benched
good
them.
game.
I benched them for the night.
I think back to this Jimmy G situation. I think that I'm not gonna say that I know something or that someone told me something, but I keep hearing Matt Ryan's name in trade rumors. And I
Mm.
think that if there's a chance they can do it, because listen, I think the 49ers, it's only week 6. We're going into week 6 right now. There's a lot left. There's a lot of football left to play. So I think the trade deadline's week 8, I believe. So if they can bring in a guy like Matt Ryan, because look at the Falcons, they're 0-5 now. I wouldn't be surprised. Listen, if they end up, keep doing bad, they finish season 3-13, 2-14, something like that, end up with a top pick, they might go Trevor Lawrence in the draft. Exactly. They're going to go Trevor Lawrence if they have a top pick in the draft. And if they could ship out Matt Ryan now at the trade deadline, and I think the 49ers should, pull the trigger on that. If that's a trade they can make, I think they should pull the trigger on that trade to bring in Matt Ryan. I think it'd benefit the team a lot, honestly. Because I look at Matt Ryan, he's a pretty good quarterback. I like him a lot. We've seen him carry that offense for all these years with the help of Julio Jones, and now he's got Calvin Ridley, and he's always had pretty decent running backs. So I think you bring a guy like that in, he's got a lot of experience. I would take him over Jimmy Garoppolo any day of the week. I think if you bring him in, it makes the team a whole lot better.
I mean, it's an interesting take, but in trading for Matt Ryan, I think they have to trade Jimmy Garoppolo away because I don't think they have the cap for that. Jimmy Garoppolo is on a big contract. Matt Ryan's on a really
Jimmy
big contract.
Garoppolo to Atlanta or trade him somewhere else. I think if you're going to bring in Matt Ryan, there's no use for Jimmy Garoppolo at that point.
Yeah, no, 100%. But it's just, I don't know. It's been interesting. I don't want to overreact. I mean, the 49ers could be in for a tough year. Their division is very good.
That's the best division in football, I think.
Easily the best
The
division in
NFC
football.
best.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't wanna overreact too much. What I take away from this is that Miami had a really good game and San Francisco didn't. But overall, this week in the NFL it was really entertaining to watch, I gotta say. Unless yesterday or on Tuesday when the Bills played the Titans, Ryan Tannehill just looked insane.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't Derrick Henry that won them the game. It was Ryan Tannehill, and the defense played really well. But
defense played great.
This year, his passing has been usually they rely on run a lot because of Henry, and then years before, his passing hasn't been on point. But he's firing off the charts this year for passing. Their passing's actually doing better than their run is because the teams are now adjusted to their
10 touchdowns, one
run.
interception or something like that, or maybe 12.
Yeah, the teams are adjusted
and
to
he
the
ran
running
one in
game
yesterday.
now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that Ryan Tannehill does need to work on, it's his celebration game. Because if you guys saw when he ran into the end zone, he jumped up I thought he was probably like this close to snapping his leg the other way, and
Yeah,
that
really
wouldn't
awkward.
have been good on national television.
Mm,
So Ryan
definitely not.
Tannehill, if you're watching this, give me a call. I'll help you with your celebration game. But I don't want to see any more of that. You jumping in the end zone,
Yep.
almost snapping your leg the other way. So
Okay. And I guess one last thing I want to say about this past week. Um, just a little bit of shout out to Alex Smith, who played his first snap since aggravated some injury. So,
yep,
it
very
was
inspiring.
really, I mean, we're all Eagles fans. We're in Philadelphia. We don't like the Washington football team. However, it's great to see a guy like Alex Smith get back after, an injury like that. Obviously, they didn't win the game or anything, but it was really good. And it was really good. Like the camera pans to his family in the stands, and his wife was super nervous, but his kids were really excited. So
Yeah,
it was just good to see.
With him coming back and Ron Rivera, battling cancer, it's just a good young organization to be around, and it gives a lot of hope. And I think they have hope in
And
the
they're
future.
trying to better themselves with, of course, changing the name this year
yep.
and just everything in general. So yeah,
Look forward
I
to all that.
guess next. So looking forward to this upcoming week, week 6.
Well, hold on.
There.
Before we move on
Oh,
to next week, let's dive deep into week 5 a little bit. Dak Prescott goes down with a season-ending injury.
yes, of course.
How are the Cowboys going to perform without him now?
Prayers up.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Anthony.
don't like to see that. Even though,
No,
as
not
I
at all.
said, we're Eagles fans.
You don't want to see that at all. I hated seeing it when it happened, similar to Gordon Hayward, a couple years back. Even when it happened to Derrick Rose all those years ago against the Sixers in the playoffs, you just hate to see a guy of
Never
that
like to
caliber.
see it.
You don't like seeing guys like that getting hurt, not at all. So, Dak, we wish you the best. Hopefully for a speedy recovery, you'll come back. Hopefully the Cowboys pay him because
You will get paid, sir.
if you see the numbers he was on track to get this season, he was going to shatter records, honestly.
You will get paid, sir.
Yeah,
So
well,
Andy Dalton comes in. They end up winning the game on a last-second field goal to beat the Giants to officially take first place in what is known as the worst division of football,
The NFC least.
the NFC least. Thank you, Anthony. How are they going to perform the rest of the season with Andy Dalton as their starting quarterback?
I gotta say, I mean, Andy Dalton, very serviceable. He definitely is. He's probably one of the best backups in the league, if we're being honest. I'm not gonna. I mean, obviously they won the game, but they won the game against the Giants, who, along with the Jets, are the worst 2 football teams in the league, and they share a stadium, which is interesting to think about. But
Side
like,
note on that, I think I saw a thing the other day. It said the last team to win a game in MetLife Stadium, that was the home team, was the XFL team that was in New York. That
the
no longer,
Battlehawks.
yes,
Or
that
no,
no
that was
longer,
St. Louis.
no,
Sorry,
I think it was the Guardians.
Guardians. Yeah,
Which is coming back in 2 years. Can't wait for that.
I can't wait as well. Maybe we
So
can do some
continue,
more
Dan.
coverage on
I
that.
figured I would say that.
Yeah.
So continue.
So I mean, they obviously have Ezekiel Elliott, so they can, lean on him in times, which they haven't really done too much this year and the past year. I mean, compared to when Zeke was a rookie and the second year, I mean, the offense really ran through him, but these past few years, it's really been predicated more against pass. But I think Andy Dalton, with Zeke, with those weapons that he has, Cooper, Lamb, who's been great, and then Michael Gallup, I still think the offense will score points, not as many points, but the problem with the Cowboys, again, their defense, it's atrocious. They let up 34 points to the worst offense in the league. I mean, well, I don't know. They have to be one of the worst. I don't know if they're
I think on
statistically dead
paper
last.
they're 30th or something like that.
Yeah, so a terrible offense. Let's just say that without Saquon
Without
Barkley.
Saquon Barkley, correct.
Yeah, so I mean, I just don't know. Andy Dalton could definitely do well and score points, but I just don't know if he can score as many points as Dak would to compensate for the defense being so bad.
Correct.
So
Yeah. I think another aspect of the game that Dak brings to the table is that he's pretty mobile too. He can run the
yes,
ball, he can do stuff with his feet. Andy Dalton can't do that. So that's like an aspect of the
you got
game
to rely on the
eliminated
O line
now.
a little bit more.
Yeah. I feel like, when the pocket was collapsing, Dak, had the ability to get out of the pocket, make something out of nothing. Most of the times, even if it was to get back to the line of scrimmage or get a yard or two, just to be
Better
able
than
to
a
do
sack.
that, it's better than a sack. Exactly. That's something that Andy Dalton can't do, especially who was on their line that's done for the year now? Was it Tyron Smith?
I believe so.
I
And Travis Frederick retired before the season.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but
I
one of
think
them's
Zach
done for the year
Martin and
now.
Lyle Collins are still playing, so I
Their
think
line's
it's
not as strong as it used to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Tyron Smith.
That's the point we're trying to make here. Their line's not as strong as it usually is. So, you just got to improve. Make sure you're buying Andy Dalton enough time. But I agree with what you said, Dan. I think you nailed it to a T right there. They got great wide receivers, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. No one can deny that. They've got it, arguably one of the best running backs in football right now, Ezekiel Elliott. And just like you said, if they want to win games, they got to fix that defense. Because
Exactly.
an absurd amount of points they gave up to the Giants. Even in the game against the Falcons, they were terrible. I think they're hoping to get Leighton Vander Esch back this weekend. So if they could get him back, that would help out the team,
Especially
a lot.
run defense.
Yes, it would help them out a lot.
They let Devonta Freeman have a good game.
Yeah.
Which is
can't have that
with that Giants line.
And listen, they control their own destiny at this point. The NFC East, where
they can still easily win it.
They can easily win it. They just win the division games. I feel like you're gonna win this. You're gonna win this division if you win your division.
That's all
games.
you need.
So, they could be 6-10. They could win the division, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think they're not in the greatest spot ever, but they're in an okay spot to where they can still make the playoffs, even if it has 6-10. I think that it's a confidence booster saying you're able to make the playoffs, stuff like that, all good things.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess one other thing, I guess to move on from the Cowboys, but also stick with Week 5. Le'Veon Bell was dropped from the Jets.
Cut from the New York Jets.
Praise the Lord. He's free.
It did not work out in New York. It just didn't. There's no other way to put it.
I feel like that was a move that was just doomed from the beginning.
Yeah.
I feel
Adam Gase.
The Jets.
Oh my gosh,
Adam Gase is a terrible head coach. The Jets also don't have a very good offensive line. I feel like people are talking oh, he only averaged, insert X for yards per carry. It's listen, he's got no offensive line.
Yeah, I mean,
when
he went
played
from
in Pittsburgh,
the Steelers with that's what I was about to say.
He never should have took that.
Pouncey.
Never should have took that year off. He would still be a top 5 running back in the league if he didn't take that year off.
I loved him. He was top 3 back in the league when he was with
Pittsburgh. Oh yeah, definitely.
So
those Killer Bees days with Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown, that was a dangerous team.
Got one thing. Now, the one team that I think could possibly sign him is the Chiefs, because Clyde's Allaire just got hurt or he's beaten up. So the Chiefs, don't be surprised if the Chiefs pick him up. I think he'll be a good fit there. He's kind of that build of the running backs.
I think that's a good fit. He's more like a power back kind of guy, I would say.
Andy Reid it's Andy Reid. He's one of the best coaches in the league. He'll know how to use them.
I agree. Dan, any thoughts on where he could go?
I don't really know. I mean, I think he'd be successful with the Chiefs. I just don't know if the Chiefs would do it. But my thing is, we kind of see it. Running back is the least valuable position in all of football. Christian McCaffrey, by far the best running back in the league, hands down. I know they're, Derrick Henry supporters, but McCaffrey's the best running back in the league. Mike Davis doing great in his absence. Dalvin Cook goes down for 1 week. Alexander Madison already does great in his absence. I mean, it's just, I just don't know. You can just sign a random guy, draft a rookie in the mid rounds. So I just don't know if anyone is gonna, if anyone's gonna pick him up. I mean, it's tough to be a running back in the NFL these days. Well, I mean, you get paid a lot of money to play 17 weeks football, so I shouldn't say that, but still, it's the least valuable position in football right now.
Yeah, I think Chiefs would be a good fit for him. I don't think there are many too good fits for him right now. I feel like, if they would have like released him in the offseason or something, he probably would have had a better chance to find a good spot where he can settle in. But I think if he wants to make a smart decision now, it is go to the Chiefs. Get a good chance to get yourself a Super Bowl. Find a more permanent home in the offseason. Or, if you do like the Chiefs enough, stay there, stick around. But yeah, I agree with the Chiefs. I feel like if he went to the Chiefs, I'm not going to say he would have the same success he had in Pittsburgh, but he would definitely have a lot more than he had in New York.
Yeah, definitely.
Anywhere other than New York.
Well, yeah, they need first Gase needs to go, then the GM needs to go, and then they need to rebuild the team.
Yeah. Poor Sam Darnold.
I know. I love Sam Darnold.
Poor Sam Darnold.
He's got talent, man. You can't, I feel like, obviously there's always the comparisons because he was drafted in that draft, all those quarterbacks to those other guys like Baker and Josh Allen. But, I feel like he was easily drafted into the worst situation out of all those guys. I mean, Josh Allen definitely fits what the Bills wanted, but if Darnold went there or Baker went there, hell, if even Rosen went there, they'd easily be doing better than what they're doing now, just based off the organization that drafted them.
Yeah. All right, let's stick with the theme of Week 5. I believe it was pretty late Sunday night. Falcons fired Dan Quinn and their GM. So I guess, Dan, I'll ask you, where do the Falcons go from here,
I mean, they're currently 0-5. They just need. I definitely think they need to get rid of Dan Quinn. I don't think he added much. I mean, when he was supposed to be this defensive genius behind Seattle's success, but most of the times they lost, it's because they let up so many points late in games. I mean, all this Matt Ryan still scores points. Like it's, I can't. I mean, he only scored this week's game against Panthers. They didn't play well on the offensive side, but like they always scored points. So I don't know if there's a prime candidate right now, but I feel like it was necessary. Same thing with the Texans firing Bill O'Brien. It just had to be done. And you just needed that change in the locker room. So
yeah,
that's
I
what
agree with that. I
about
feel like Dan Quinn that first season. I think was that his first season they took him to the Super Bowl, first or second season.
Yeah.
I feel like I think I saw a stat the other day. Like since then, he's only got maybe like 18 wins, and that was 4 seasons ago.
Yeah, and I mean that season was the offense. That was Kyle Shanahan. Mount Ryan won MVP, so it wasn't like
Credit to him, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've been unfortunate with injuries in their defense. Deion Jones, Keanu Neal, those guys have been banged up, and they're easily the best players on their defense. But I just don't know. They just haven't added right. The whole Vic Beasley thing, and like he was like good, and he wasn't good, and they just let him go. Like I don't know. That has to do with the GM, which is why I also think he should have went. Like they didn't like when you make it to the Super Bowl and you lose, you can't be content with staying the same. You have to get better. Staying the same is getting worse because the teams below you that are gonna get better. And I feel like that's what happened with them. They just stagnated and didn't improve. It happened with the Rams after they lost the Super Bowl. Obviously, they're looking up now, but just the way they built their squad and didn't build onto it because of poor contract decisions and stuff like that. Like you just have to. I don't know. Even though it's hard because mostly the teams that go to the Super Bowl are usually cap, restricted. There's no denying that, but you just can't stay the same in the NFL because it's always changing.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, one last thing from Week 5. There was an insane wide receiver duel in the Pittsburgh Steelers Philadelphia Eagles game. Chase Claypool and Travis Fulgham both put up monster numbers. Claypool with 4 total touchdowns, 1 rushing, 3 receiving, and Fulgham had 10 catches for, I believe it was 152 yards, also had a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question is, do you think this was a fluke, or can we expect more from these guys?
I think Fulgham, yes. He did that. He did very good in the week before against the Niners for the Eagles. Plus, you know, Wentz.
So too.
Yep, exactly. And now he's gaining Wentz's trust. Wentz is feeling more comfortable
Greg
with
Ward
10
2.0.
targets. So he's feeling more comfortable. So I definitely agree there. Claypool, he's been having these like spur moments. Now, like we'll see this upcoming week if they just scored 4 touchdowns. So let's see if they're going to use him or if they're not, because I think he hasn't been targeted as much as he could.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think he popped off. I believe it was against the Giants.
Yeah,
He had a
that's what
really
it was.
good
Yep, that
game, and then he was just like silent. It's like, maybe a catch or two a game. And then he just torched the Eagles secondary, linebackers, everyone on that Eagles
Nate
defense.
Gary.
Yeah, I don't know the decision behind that. That was how he got his 4th touchdown. He was lined up with a Nathan Gary, who does not deserve to be in the NFL. This is also a Nathan Gary hate page, in case you didn't know. He
100%.
doesn't deserve to be in the NFL. He's not an NFL linebacker. He used to play safety. I don't know how he did that, because he's just as I imagine he's worse as a safety. But weird decision. Apparently it was a mismatch that wasn't supposed to happen, but I don't really buy that.
Schwartz out.
Schwartz probably should be out as the Eagles defensive coordinator, but we'll have to see what happens. All right, I think that's NFL Week 5 recapped. Preview for Week 6.
One last thing.
Oh,
Justin Herbert, Rookie
Played
of the
very
Year.
well.
I'll say it now.
Does he get your game ball of the week, Anthony? Your game ball from Week 5 is going to Justin Herbert?
For quarterbacks, yes. And just
What about for overall players? If it doesn't go to Herbert, who does it go to?
I don't know about that, but
I don't know. I'll take
you got to give it to Claypool.
Mike Davis,
Claypool.
Claypool. They did it good. They did very good. But Herbert, playing without his 2 offensive tackles, his running back, and then only having one quarter of his, his star receiver, Keenan Allen, and he just is on fire. The Saints pass rush is one of the best in the league, and he just did awesome. And if he keeps it, the only problem in that game was, 1, he missed a field goal to win it, and then 2, Anthony Lynn, towards the end of the game, you saw this in the Bucs game, he stays conservative. You can't do that. Herbert is an introvert. You got to give him confidence on the inside to where he's keep going. He's getting that thrill to where he's just give the ball. He might not get that many yards, and you just go back to the huddle like nothing happened. You got to keep him up. You got to keep him in the game. Because you saw that in the Rose Bowl too. Wisconsin had one of the best defenses in the nation, and in the last game, Oregon coach was like, let's decide, let the Herbert show go on. And you saw how he did in that game. He was running, he was throwing, he was going out of the pocket, making plays happen. So I think just Anthony Lynn, just less conservative at the end of the game, because they're up. Herbert led Brady, Mahomes, and Breeze. If they made that field goal, they won. If the Butker didn't hit the 64-yarder, they won. And then if they didn't have any offense. They just did all little plays at go to the sideline. In the Bucs game, they were up by a lot. If that didn't happen, they would have won that. So Herbert, keep it up. I think he's, in my opinion, going to get Offensive Player of the Year or Rookie of the Year. Sorry,
okay, Rookie of the Year.
That's my bad.
Okay, all right. So, Dan, there was a lot of slander from you towards Justin Herbert before the draft.
Yes, yeah. I'm not gonna, take it back because he's playing well, but yeah, I just didn't. I really, I'm still not 100% sold on him. I mean, I'm a big Joe Burrow guy. Joe Burrow has one bad week, and now it's like Justin Herbert's this,
I like Joe Burrow too.
I just feel coming out of Oregon, I don't know. There was a lot of, he would either throw it, 50 yards downfield, or he'd throw a screen. They ran a lot of screens at Oregon, And I mean, it works with Austin Eckler. It's, a good fit. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad Justin Herbert's playing well. I like to see that he's playing with confidence, but I'm still, you know, not 100% sold on him quite yet. But
All right. Well, now let's officially move on from week 5. Week 6. No Thursday game this week. We got a doubleheader on Monday. The game that was supposed to be on Thursday, Chiefs-Bills, moved to Monday at 5:00 due to COVID-related issues. A lot of schedule changing going on. The other Monday night game, I actually like the game a lot. Arizona Cardinals are going to take on the Dallas Cowboys in a game that should be interesting. Sunday night, we got the Rams 49ers. That should be a good one. A really good quarterback duel between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Buccaneers play the Packers at 4:00 on Sunday. Dan, tell us what you got about this week. What games are you looking at?
So you mentioned one of them there, the Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers, just because it's, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think the Bucks and the Packers, it could be just a good matchup overall. Another test for the Packers to see, how legit they are. I think they're pretty legit, but playing a good team like the Buccaneers. And it's a question for the Buccaneers. I mean, they just lost to Nick Foles and the Chicago Bears, so there's questions around how legit the Bucks are. But thankfully for them, no one in their division's really rolling. I mean, I think
Correct.
honestly,
All
I
teams
think
besides the Falcons at
Carolina's
3-2. So
yeah, I think Carolina's honestly looked the best out of the teams in that division. But another game I'm interested to see, Browns Steelers, great division game at 1:00. Both teams have looked pretty good this season, so it's interesting to see how they play. I mean, even though last season it was like the Steelers defense was the best and I was going to carry them, their defense has played okay, but I mean, they still let up, I think it was like 25 to the Giants, 29 to the Eagles. So, but they've been scoring points. That's the thing. So, with Juju and Claypool, James Conner's finally got a, string of games together because he was hurt throughout last season. So I think that could be a really interesting game. And I think there was another one I wanted to point out. Yeah, you kind of touched upon it. The Bills and the Chiefs on Monday. Both teams who were undefeated going into the week are now not. They both had disappointing weeks, so it's going to be interesting to see how which one of those can bounce back from a disappointing week 5.
all right, well, let's take a look at some of the lines from those games that you mentioned. Browns Steelers, Pittsburgh's favored by 3.5, and the over/under is 51.
I think I would take Pittsburgh. I think I would take that 3.5. And I'd also take the over in that game. I think it's going to be a high scoring game.
Okay, and then for the Packers Buccaneers game, we've got Green Bay -1, and then the over/under is 54.5.
I am going to take Green Bay -1, and I think I'm going to take the under for that
Take
one.
the under for that game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. And then the final one, Chiefs favored by 3.5, and the over/under is 57.5.
I'll take the Bills.
Anthony's taking the Bills at home. Bills Mafia out in full force on Monday
Definitely
evening.
still be in the parking lot if they can be. I'm not
I-
sure with all the COVID-related issues.
I think they let people in, fans. I mean, it says here tickets as low as $83. So if anyone wants to go to the Bills game this weekend,
Yeah, I'll take the Bills too, and I might take the over too. I mean, those two teams can score points, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get a,
yeah, we could get a shootout there.
42-35 or something like that, 38.
Okay. Anthony, you got any games you're looking at this weekend? Any big ones?
You pretty much covered it all. I like the Bucks, Packers, and the Browns, Steelers, and the Bills. Chiefs. They're my games. I just got a notification. Lamelo. I know it's not football. Lamelo Ball just signed the sponsorship with Puma, so just congrats to him.
Wow.
Puma, if you want to sponsor us, we're just as good as LaMelo Ball.
Yeah.
You can
all
keep
right.
going with football.
We got a few teams who don't have wins yet in the New York Giants and the Atlanta Falcons. Both are 0-5. I believe
And the
the
Jets.
only teams the Jets don't have a win. They're on a. Are they on a bye? No, they're not. Who are the Jets
No.
play? Jets are playing the Dolphins. Do any of those teams get wins this weekend?
Not the
Um,
Jets. Not the Jets. I think the Dolphins win that.
Imagine the Jets are going to go 0-16. If I'm being honest.
I don't know. I think the
Giants are going up
team.
against the Washington football team at home, and then the Falcons go on the road to take on the Vikings.
I think the team that probably has the best chance at it is the Giants at home because, you know, Washington, they're not a particularly great team either. Their defense is very inconsistent. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes really bad, and they can't really score points. So, I mean, I think you'll either get a quite boring game in New York or, maybe a quite high scoring game.
Yeah,
So,
as we mentioned earlier, the Giants were pretty close to beating the Cowboys. And they lost on a last-second field goal, so I feel that they could, get a win against the Giants
and
or
division games are
against
always closer.
against the football
So,
team this weekend. They're still starting Kyle Allen this weekend. He'll be the starter. I don't know what they're gonna do with Dwayne Haskins. I don't know what they
yeah,
can do with Dwayne Haskins.
it's really,
So that's an interesting situation.
I think if the Redskins just I think they have
they're
a
not the
very good
Redskins.
defense, young defense, and then their offensive line and weapons isn't that bad. They're young, they can get better. So I think if they can, if they can compete this year, as long as they compete, I don't care if they lose, because if they lose, they get Lawrence or they can get Fields or someone like that. I would, especially Justin Fields. I don't think they're going to be, that number one pick, but 3 to 5 area, they get Justin Fields, who, Ron Rivera down in Carolina's with Cam. Justin Fields is not as big, but he can run like Cam. He's fast. He has a strong arm. So, and they made it 15-1 that 1 year. So I would definitely just, if I was a fan, and I would just want to see them compete, get better, look towards the future. And if they don't do that good, get Justin Fields, and I think they'll be fine from there.
I agree with that. It's a good take. All right, so let's move on from the NFL, but let's stay with football. A very big weekend in college football that I would say was headlined by the Red River Showdown. 4 overtime game. Very, very weird game, in my opinion. Rattler was benched. I think it was right before halftime he was benched. And he ends up coming back into the game, and then they take a nice lead against Texas, and then Texas storms on back, and the game goes into overtime. It went 4 overtimes, and Oklahoma ends up winning the game. Both teams now stand at 2-2. Any takes on the game, guys?
Defense. They both need better defenses.
I think everyone in college football needs better defenses.
I agree with
besides
that.
Clemson,
Well,
but
yeah, Clemson besides that.
the scores of the games. I mean, I know it's been that way for quite a few years now, but just like, didn't Alabama score like 63, right?
The final, I was going to get right into that. The final score of the Alabama game was 63, Ole Miss 48.
Like that's over 100 points, 111 points.
Yeah.
Like,
As
I don't know.
Right before the podcast, we were talking about Najee Harris and his 5
Congrats,
touchdown
Birdie.
game. Very
Yeah.
big game. 53 carries,
School
for
record.
206 yards, 5 total touchdowns. It was quite the game to watch. I was watching that game, and they were just going back and forth with each other. It was like you scored a touchdown, and it's like anything you could do, I could do better. They'd always come back, and if you got a touchdown, I got a touchdown. And I don't think I started watching the game until after halftime when I saw what the score was. And I can't remember if I saw a punt. Maybe I saw one, but there was like little to none defense played in that game. And then here's another team, no defense. Miami gives up 42 to Clemson. Again, I mean, number one ranked school in the nation.
They look great.
They look incredible.
Lawrence looked.
Let's hop into that. Are Clemson destined to avenge their loss in the college football playoff from last year? They're going to take it home this year.
I think so. I don't know if there's an outstanding candidate that, can beat them. I mean, obviously the Big Ten hasn't started yet, so I guess we'll see what
I
comes
don't
out
I
of
don't
Ohio
think
State.
anyone from the Big Ten, even
Yeah, I don't
Ohio
think the Big
State.
Ten. Yeah.
I think they whopped Ohio State last year in the college football playoff. I don't imagine, Penn State won't be any different. Michigan won't be any different.
No, they're not Big Ten. What am I
No.
saying?
There's only two schools that will
Sorry.
give them, I think, Georgia, Alabama. Those
I don't
two
think they have
schools.
enough.
Notre Dame could give them a run for their money potentially. I don't know if they're scheduled to play this season, but if they
Yep,
play in the ACC title game, then that could make for an interesting game. They're gonna eventually end up playing North Carolina, I think, at some point. That North Carolina team's pretty good. I watched them over this weekend.
And last year they almost beat Clemson, and they should have.
Yeah, and I remember a few years back when they played Clemson in the ACC title game, and they lost because something happened on an onside kick at the very at the end. But I think you look at Clemson; they're so complete. Their defense is insanely good. It's
That's what
by
I
far
think
the
that's
best
what
defense in
separates
college
them.
football. Yeah,
Because everyone could score a lot of points, but it's really bless you.
Thanks,
But it's really their defense, and like it's Trevor Lawrence too. Like I just don't think there's any like quarterbacks in college football that you can say like are clearly can like duel with him or outduel him. I mean, last year it was Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow had probably the best singular college football season we've ever seen from a quarterback. So you could see him beating him, but I just don't see anyone beating Trevor Lawrence.
yeah. We look at that Clemson team, and we're so quick to talk about they got Trevor Lawrence, and they've got probably one of the best running backs going into this draft class this year in Travis Etienne.
Travis Etienne.
So I mean, their offense is great, but their defense is just so much better. It's insane how good their defense is. They played the number 7 ranked team this past weekend in Miami, gave up only 17 to them. I mean, you don't see a number 7 ranked team only putting up 17 points. It doesn't happen very often.
It's 54 in college. Like
so
it's the defense that separates them, and just having Trevor Lawrence, So I think, I mean, unless something, catastrophically goes wrong with them,
it's theirs to lose.
yeah, like Trevor Lawrence gets like COVID or something during the playoffs.
Someone's got to go insanely wrong, because I think even if Trevor Lawrence went out, they'd still win it all, honestly.
Yeah, I really think it's definitely theirs to lose.
So, and I don't think anyone from the Big Ten, Pac-12, I don't think anyone will have anything to do with it. It's like, I go to Penn State. As much as I'd love to see them win the college football playoff, if they run into Clemson, they're going to lose by 50. It's like, even Ohio State. I mean, they've played them twice in the playoffs, and, both times Clemson has just stomped on them.
Mm-hmm.
So that defense, and then they get complimented by that offense. It's just like, there's nothing you can do. There's really nothing you can do. Like you look at last year and like LSU, that was just like such a different story. That offense was so insane. And, like it shows. Brady. It shows because look at how bad it shows because look how bad they are now. Let's hop right into that. They lost to to Missouri. They had 4 plays on the 1 yard line and didn't convert. 4 straight plays and couldn't get in, couldn't punch it in. They ended up losing the game. In a game, I think that was supposed to be a home game, but they had to move it to Missouri because of the hurricane. So maybe that had a factor in it, but I doubt it because they just looked like a bad team. I mean, I'm not going to say they were terrible, but they didn't look great. So, piggybacking off of that Clemson talk and them being such a great team and LSU having such a great team last year, I mean, granted, they put up 41 points, but it was also against Missouri, who, doesn't have a good defense either. To continue with the team of bad defenses, they don't have a good one. So
yeah, I mean, they lost the leader in Patrick Queen to the NFL draft, and a few corners, a few safeties like Grant Delpit, who is also one of their leaders. I mean, it's just they're just not. I mean, last year they were so good and so dominant, but this year they're missing Joe Brady, they're missing Joe Burrow, and the rest of the gang there. So,
had an upset. Number 21 Texas A&M beat number 4 Florida, a last-second field goal to win the game. Kellen Mond put up pretty decent numbers: 25, 35, 338, and 3 touchdowns. Isaiah Spiller He had 27 carries for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Caleb Chapman, 9 receptions, 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. I know, Anthony, last week you were talking about Florida's quarterback and how impressive he's looked. He had a pretty good game too. But, continuing the theme of bad defenses, another high-scoring game. And I was surprised to see Texas A&M win this one, if I'm saying. I think, Dan, I know how often we talk about this. Every time, we see them match up with like a high-ranked team, they always get destroyed.
Lose.
They always get murdered. I mean, granted, I think they played Clemson last season, and they always play Alabama because they're in the SEC. They always get destroyed by those teams. And I feel like they're just always getting stomped on by better teams. I feel like they're always overrated. But this was a good win for them. And a team, who's number 4 ranked at the time, Florida, that's a good win. So, I don't know. Anyone else got anything to say on that game?
Good job, Texas A&M.
Good job, Texas A&M. That's all I had to say. It was a really good game by them. Another really good game. North Carolina beat Virginia Tech in a game that was, pretty much wire to wire. I mean, the first quarter ended 21-0, but Virginia Tech stormed back in the second half, made it a game, made it competitive, and then North Carolina kind of took off with it at the end again. But it was, a fun game to watch. Notre Dame kind of stomped on Florida State 42-26. Yep. Georgia, Tennessee was a close game at halftime, and then 27 unanswered points by Georgia in the second half. Auburn narrowly beat Arkansas 2 points, 30-28. And yeah, I think that all but covers college football in a pretty exciting week. Go ahead, Ant.
Nick Saban has tested positive for or COVID. So, prayers for him, and we hope he get better. And then there has been one game that for sure has been postponed this week because of that, LSU versus Florida, and there's a couple more that we're just finding out about. So, if you have COVID, we hope prayers for you, and we hope you feel better.
Right. And as more news continues to come out, Baylor, Oklahoma State was postponed. LSU, Florida was postponed. I'm not sure if they plan on postponing the Alabama-Georgia game because, I'd have to imagine Nick Saban was around other people in that Alabama facility. So, if news comes out, we will let you know. Obviously,
follow
as we do
Twitter.
here. We will follow us on Twitter, sports, 2___ kingdom, one word. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram at sportsking.dom. Okay. Subscribe to the YouTube channel because you're watching this video on the YouTube channel right now. So subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Click the button. Just click the button.
Click the button. Flick the bell. Okay. Not really sure what that means, but flick the bell. All right.
Get the notifications up.
Get the notifications. Listen, follow us everywhere. Tell your friends about it. Tell your dads about it. Tell your uncles about it. Tell your friends about it. Your moms about it. Tell your dog about it. I love dogs. I got 3 dogs. Dogs are great. But yeah, this week in college football, not as many great games as there were last week. I'm looking here right now. I mean, Notre Dame, Louisville might be an eye-opener just because, for namesake. Pitt, Miami, again, another namesake kind of game. Number 8, Cincinnati is going to play Tulsa. How do you guys feel about Cincinnati?
Number 8?
They're number 8. I feel like they're only number 8 because, there's no Pac-12 yet. There's no Big Ten yet. I feel like if this was a normal season, I'm not going to say Cincinnati was a bad team. I'm not going to lie. I haven't watched a single one of their games. They could be a great team for all I know. But, yeah, I don't know if they should be 8. I mean, they are 8. I think they're 1 ahead of Penn State right now, who are 9. I think Ohio State is 6 or 5, I believe. So the Big Ten teams are in there. But I think it's a different story because they're not playing yet.
Definitely.
But number 1, Clemson plays Georgia Tech. Blowout by Georgia Tech.
Biggest game of the week's Georgia, Alabama by far.
Yes, as long as it doesn't get canceled, it'll be a great game to watch. I imagine no defense. Definitely take the over. Even if it's 75, take the over because I imagine there'll be no defense played.
You have to be bold to take an under in college football.
Oh, I know. I'm looking at this under right here. Boston College, Virginia Tech, 62. That might be an under. I don't know. I mean, those are 2 pretty good teams. All right, so that's college football upcoming. Let's hop into soccer. Dan, what do you got for us in soccer for this week?
Yeah. So I just want to briefly touch upon a few things. So we have soccer back this week, the international break finally over. I mean, I know some people like international better than club, but I am not one of those people. So there are a few games I want to look at regarding the Premier League and Serie A. The other leagues, the other three in the Big Five, I don't really find that there are too many interesting games this week. But if a crazy result happens, we'll let you guys know. I feel like the biggest game of the weekend, we got the Merseyside Derby, Everton, Liverpool. Everton are on fire right now. They're top of the league, and Liverpool was just smacked 7-2 to Aston Villa, who are themselves doing very well. But I mean, I feel like this is a really big test for Everton. They did beat Tottenham. They did beat a very solid Brighton side as well. But this is their big test. Can they beat their rivals? I don't remember the last time Everton has won a Merseyside derby. It's probably been many years, but Ancelotti, James Rodriguez, they got them going. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. A part of me wants to take Everton because of how well they're playing, but um, Liverpool still has so much class. I mean, I don't know what happened that made Mo Salah so criminally underrated. I mean, he's still so good. He's still carrying the attack. I know Sadio Mane is good as well, but to me, the team is built around Mohamed Salah. I mean, I think he's got like 6.5 creative actions, like shots or key passes per 90, which is just it's leading the Premier League. It's insane. So I feel like it's going to be a good game. I can honestly see like a 3-3 draw or something, like a really entertaining game. So that's something to look forward to. Also in the Premier League, Arsenal, Man City. There's a lot of negative mojo coming with Man City right now, and there's a lot of positive mojo regarding Arsenal. Um, Arsenal haven't looked great, but they definitely have looked good. Arteta definitely has the guys kind of rallying around each other. Aubameyang's looked good. Lacazette has looked good. And I think they'll have their brand new signing, Thomas Partey, to play after the official transfer on deadline day. City, I mean, they've looked really weak. They got smacked by Leicester 5-2. So, and a lot of people, I don't know, they're like questioning Pep, which never really happens because it's Pep. Um, so I think City will come out with the win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lost, if I'm being totally honest. And then the last game I wanted to touch on really quick in Premier League, a lot lower in quality, but Sheffield United play Fulham on Sunday, and these two teams, they're bottom of the league, 0 goals, 0 points. They have a terrible goal differential. And like this is a big game because if either of them can get 3 points, 3 points for a team like that is essential. Like you need to win the games against the other bottom teams to stay up because that's just the main goal for those guys. I mean, Sheffield United had a great season under Chris Wilder last year. They finished ninth after being promoted. Many people thought they'd go right back down. But okay, 10. But getting these points, especially early in the season, could honestly save one of them from relegation. I mean, you only need. I think Norwich last year they only had like 20 points, and they were dead last last year. So like 3 points, it's big. It's really big. So that is a game to look out. There are a few other good games in Premier League, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. I do want to move on to Serie A, which has a few interesting games this week. So the first game on Saturday we have Napoli Atalanta, and then also on Saturday we have the Milan Derby. Dom, I know you're quite the fan of Serie A as well. So would you like to talk about these two games?
Well, let's start with the Napoli Atalanta game. I mentioned on the last podcast about how I no longer doubt Atalanta, and I'm gonna stick by that word because they just score so many goals. And listen, I don't see any way that they lose this game to Napoli. I think it's been a while since Napoli played. They had that whole thing where the whole team got COVID, and it was made official today that last result against Juve isn't going to be
3-0
postponed.
loss.
It was officially a 3-0 loss, and they were actually deducted a point too. So
Oh, right. Yeah.
they got deducted a point, and they were handed a 3-0 defeat. So I think, it might be a little bit of rust there for Napoli. This is their first game in, I want to say, maybe close to a month at this point. Because there was an international break and they didn't get to play that game last week. So like 3 weeks to a month has probably been since they played. And I think Atalanta are just so damn good. I think they just, listen, Napoli's got a great defense led by
They're
Koulibaly.
top of the table right now as well, Atalanta.
Yes, Napoli's got a great defense. Koulibaly, Manolas. It's just a great defense in general. But I think Atalanta just scores too many goals. I don't think who you got on your back line matters because they're just going to keep scoring goals. So if I had to put money on it, I would say Atalanta's going to win the game, probably like 3-1, 4-2, or the game could end in like a 3-3 draw if Gattuso's decided he's going to go all out attack.
Yeah, if Lozano has like a
Lozano,
really good game.
you look at Insigne, you look at Milik, you look at Mertens.
Osimhen,
They got a
played
really good
okay.
attack too. So Napoli could easily make it a 3-3 draw. I don't know if they'll win the game. They could, but I don't know if they will.
I don't see it.
I would feel more comfortable saying that Atalanta will win the game. So, like I said, either, something 3-1, 4-2, or maybe a 3-3 draw if Gattuso's really pushing it. And then, the interesting one, the Milan derby. Such a fun game to watch. No matter, Inter could be top of the table and Milan could be in relegation zone. It's always just a fun game to watch. It's just a great atmosphere. It's unfortunate there's not going to be, any fans there. Or very little fans there because it's just such a great atmosphere to be in. I hope to get there myself one day because it's just, incredible. It's a sight to see. There's so many pictures from it, but looking at the game, it's hard not to like Inter. It's hard not to like what they got. Lukaku's looking like one of the best strikers in Serie A. He looked like one of the best last year. He continues to look like one of the best this year. Lautaro Martinez, what a talent he is. What a talent. He scores goals from everywhere. He's everywhere. You watch him, he's in the box, he's whipping in crosses, he's making key passes.
Scored for Argentina this week.
Scored for Argentina. How about that? And you know what? I don't know if they're going to sell him next season, but if they do, they're going to get a lot of money from him because he's worth it. He's worth every penny. Whether Barcelona buys him, whether Real Madrid buys him, it's going to be a lot of money for Inter to go out there and go buy another good player. So, looking at that attack and the shaky Milan defense, I mean, the rest of Inter's team, pretty solid. Alexis Sanchez, he had a pretty decent year last year. He's looked, somewhat decent so far. Their midfield's really good. I wouldn't say it's the best in Serie A, but it's up there. It's pretty good. It's pretty good midfield. And defense is pretty good too. Defense has held up most of the season. It held up most of last season. So, and then you look at Milan. They got a great attack. Obviously, you got Ibra on your attack. It's going to be a good attack. So, I look at Ibra, and I feel like Ibra could just solely carry them to a Champions League spot as Tennyson is traveling the world.
Mm-hmm.
He could lead them to a Champions League spot, but he's got a great supporting cast too. I mean, he's got other great attackers that help him. I mean, he's got one hell of a talent, Donnarumma in net, who, mark my words, he'll be the best goalkeeper in the world at some point.
That I feel like could maybe make a difference, just the goalkeeping quality. I mean,
Yeah.
Murray is not bad. Or no, sorry, not Murray. What am I thinking? Handanovic. But he's definitely not as good as he once was. I was thinking of Napoli still for some reason. But yeah, my bad, Kevin.
So they got like an average midfield. The rest of the defense is pretty average. But if I had to make a pick for the game, I would probably say Inter are going to win it. Probably 2-0, maybe 3-0.
Mm.
But don't be surprised if Ibra gets a brace.
Yeah.
Makes it interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said about the Atalanta Napoli game. But I'm actually gonna I think AC are gonna win it like 2-1 or 3-2. I think it's definitely gonna be close. But yeah, so that's what I have for Serie A. The other leagues, like La Liga is totally weird right now. Some teams have played 3 games, some have played like 5 or 6. League on, there's no interesting games for me. And then the Bundesliga, Hoffenheim play Dortmund this week. Hoffenheim, of course, they beat Bayern, so they're sitting pretty well on the table right now, even though it's very early. So I think that could be an interesting matchup. See how Kramaric does against a Dortmund defense. And then I guess really quick to kind of sum up soccer. Project Big Picture. So it was a proposal by the big clubs in the Premier League. With it had a bunch of changes. It would lower the teams in the league from 20 to 18, and a bunch of other things that I can make a video about to discuss if you guys want. But just the base of it, it was a power move by the big clubs. So they would provide, I think it was $350 million bailout to the clubs and the championship and the lower leagues in exchange for a power switch. But ultimately, it was denied today officially, and I'm kind of glad that it was denied. It definitely it didn't really work out with the fans' perception, and for like it definitely would help out the championship now because of COVID. COVID has such I mean, it's had an effect on everyone, but on like the lower soccer clubs, it is killing them right now. Like that's why they're selling at like cutthroat prices. Like they're just getting rid of everybody. Um, so it could definitely help out in the short term, but in the long term, it would be terrible. Because right now, I think you need in a vote in the Premier League, you need 15 teams, just 15. It doesn't matter which teams they are, but to make a decision. But now it would be 6. Like if the big 6, it would make a power 9. So the regular big 6 clubs, and then West Ham, Everton, and Southampton, because they're the teams with the longest tenure in the Premier League. So 6 of those teams, 6 decisions from the biggest, wealthiest owners could make a change just like that. And it. I'm really happy it got denied. I don't know if you guys have any opinions on it or know too much about it. I read up a bit about it, and I'm really glad it was denied. I think it's best for the Premier League. So
Yeah, I mean, we touched upon it briefly before we started recording this, but I wasn't too aware of it, but I'd heard the news that it was rejected, and hearing everything that you just said, I'm very happy it got denied too, because at that point you're just turning the game into pretty much a money move for
Rich man's club.
the bigger clubs.
yeah, it was originally proposed by the owners of Liverpool, like their
Yeah, I would
group,
imagine.
and then the owner of Man United backed it up and made it an official proposal. So I mean, it was clearly meant to cater towards the big. It wasn't like Brighton just decided to offer this up and do that. But so I'm glad it got denied. Maybe in the future it'll get passed, but at least for right now,
With COVID.
yeah, because it's really in response to COVID. But I feel like the big clubs are taking advantage of the financial situation of the smaller teams and trying to make this power move by saying, oh, we're going to give you a lot of money. They were going to give them a lot of money. 350 million is a lot. But I just, I'm kind of glad. I think it's better for the game that it was not passed.
Likewise, I agree. All right, Dan, you got anything else for us on soccer?
No, I do not.
All right, well then let's move on. Very briefly, I'll touch upon NHL Free Agency. It's been about a week since the market opened, and majority of the big names have signed or have moved, or some have been re-signed. I mean, we'll start with the big one. Alex Pietrangelo goes to St. Louis to Las Vegas, signs a 7-year deal worth $61 million. on a move that was, pretty much bound to happen once Torrey Krug signed with St. Louis from Boston. He got a big deal too, as we discussed on the other podcast. 7 years, $45 million. So, I mean, Pietrangelo going to Las Vegas is big because that is now the best defense by far in the NHL. And then, we look at some other moves. Patrick Marleau is heading back to San Jose. He looks to capture the record for most games played all time, which he'll get. I think he needs 41, I believe, to get the record. And, there should be a full season played this year, so he should get it. Kevin LeBanc, he re-signs with the Sharks 4 years, almost 19 mil. Tyson Barrie goes from Toronto to Edmonton on a 1-year deal. Thomas Greiss goes from the Islanders to the Red Wings on a 2-year deal worth about $7.2 million. Andre Burakovsky re-signs on a 2-year deal with the Avalanche. Jacob Markstrom goes from Vancouver to Calgary on a 6-year deal worth $36 million. Matt Murray signs a 4-year deal with the Senators after he was traded there. Patrick Maroon re-signs a 2-year deal worth about $1.8 million. And just earlier today, Brandon Gallagher signed a 6-year extension with the Montreal Canadiens for 6 years, and he's going to make about $6.5 million a year on that deal. Dan, did you have any moves you wanted to highlight? Oh, Taylor Hall also went from Arizona to Buffalo on a 1-year deal.
Not really. I think you touched upon it. The Pietrangelo thing. I mean, that's huge. I mean, he's their captain, and then now he's gone. I mean, it had to happen, but it's just gonna be weird. It's gonna be interesting to see how the locker room reacts. And also, Jake Allen left St. Louis, so they're relying on Bennington, who I do think is a very talented goalkeeper. He just crumbled in the playoffs
I don't
last
know
year.
what happened to him in the bubble. It was very interesting.
So it's gonna be really interesting to see St. Louis this year. That's all
St.
I gotta
Louis is gonna be
say.
a fun team to watch this season.
Isn't Tarasenko's coming back fully, correct?
He should. Hopefully he's healthy.
Because he is really fun to watch.
Yeah,
He's
he was
an insane talent.
injury riddled last season. So hopefully he can come back healthy and dominate the same way we saw him when they won the Cup in 19.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I guess let's touch upon the NL and ALCS really quick. Game 4 of the ALCS just went final. The Houston Astros avoided a sweep by winning 4-3. Tampa Bay rallied, almost got it in the 9th inning. Left a runner on third base to end the game. But the series goes to a Game 5, which will be played tomorrow. Zach Greinke gets the win. Tyler Glasnow gets the loss. And then on the NL side, the Dodgers are able to fend off a 3-0 series deficit from a huge first inning. 11 runs scored in the first inning, which pretty much sealed the deal right there.
It's a record.
It was a record for most in a postseason inning. Any postseason inning, not even just the first. They won the game 15-3. Julio Urias gets the win with Anthony, back me up. What's his first name? Right?
Kyle Wright.
All right, gets the
Loss.
loss, who now has an ERA of 94.50 in the postseason.
Nice.
So hopefully he can work on that. But they've been pretty interesting series. I've enjoyed watching the Astros Rays games, mostly because of how Jose Altuve has been messing up his throws. I hate the guy now. I hate everyone on the Astros now. This is also an Astros hate page along with an Nathan Gary hate page. If you're
I don't think you can say that.
fan, if you're an Astros fan, your baseball opinion does not matter. I don't care.
Still take your sponsorships though.
We will take your sponsorships. Yeah, Houston Astros, if you want to sponsor us for some reason. I love banging on trash cans too. So, if you want to sponsor us, do it. But if you don't, oh well, I'm not going to cry. I do have a tattoo right here. I have to cover it up though. Don't rip my jersey off. But yeah, it's been fun to watch regardless. It's been good baseball games. The Braves pitching has been outstanding.
Best young core.
They've been just making a mess up until the 9th inning of Game 2 last night, where the Dodgers, I think they scored what? I believe maybe 4 or 5 runs in the 9th
They scored
inning.
4.
They scored 4 runs in the 9th inning and lost by 1 run. I think the game ended 8-7. They almost came back and won it. But besides that inning, the entirety of Game 1 and the first 8 innings of Game 2, they were just being blanked by Atlanta's pitching. Atlanta's pitching has been insane all season long, all postseason long. They've been just wheeling and dealing. It's been insane to watch. And then the Rays have been really
they're pitching too.
They're pitching
But
as well.
Besides this
fun.
game, it was 5 runs in 3 games. I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah,
that's
game one,
insane.
only 1 run. Game two, 2 runs. Game three, they gave up 2 runs, and then like you said today was they gave up 4 runs, which is
Which
the
still
most.
isn't bad. I mean,
It's
they
not
just
bad at
need
all.
to
No.
hit more.
There's
I
one
think
player I want to shout out on the Rays, Randy Serena. You know, it's first year. He's just having
he
fun.
is on fire. He had a
He's
2-run
on
home run
fire.
today.
Yep, and each game he's been hitting. You know, he's fun to watch. So, you know, keep it going, young man. So, and it's nice to watch that. Nice to see fun back in the game.
It's great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun watching. This has been a great postseason so far. A lot of the series have been really good. A lot of really competitive. Tomorrow we got Game 4 NLCS starts at 8 o'clock. Clayton Kershaw is going to make his first NLCS appearance this year after he was scratched from I believe it was Game 2. He was scratched
Game
from
2, yep. Back spasms.
back spasms. Yep. He's going to pitch tomorrow. He's going to go up against Brees Wilson. Any predictions for the game, boys?
Braves. I have the Braves for that series. I have the Braves in 6. I think they'll win the next game. Then they'll lose game 5 and then win game 6. I just don't think, Kershaw for tomorrow's game just, with the back spasms and just Kershaw in the postseason. I don't think he's going to be fully ready. But then I'll have the Braves in 6 and then the Rays in 5. I believe the Rays will win.
I can see it. So.
I think I don't know. I like the I think this game was a big turning point for the Dodgers. I don't know what happened to where they got 11 runs in the first inning. Maybe it was just a good pitching matchup. I heard they had a meeting. I'm not sure when it was, but all the players got together and had a meeting some point between game 3 and 4 or 2 and 3. And it must have woke their bats up because 11 runs in the first inning and 15 runs in the game. Max Muncy had a grand slam. So I feel like this could be a turning point. I think if Kershaw pitches good enough to where they can win the game tomorrow, if he puts them in a situation where they can win, I think the series is there to lose if they tie it up at 2-2. And then I agree with you guys with the Rays. I feel like the Rays should probably wrap it up tomorrow. That game's at 5 o'clock. Starters haven't been announced yet for that. But I think Rays are definitely. I think they're going to make it to the World Series, and I think regardless of who they're going to play, it's going to be a good matchup. The Rays got a lot of good hitters, and their defense has been phenomenal. Shout out to the Rays defense; they're just making plays left and right. I think Deion Sanders once said, "Water covers 66% of the earth, and I cover the other 33%." The Rays defense is taking over for Deion Sanders because I think everything that goes into the outfield is caught. I've seen every time I turn on SportsCenter, it's just insert player name makes amazing play for the Rays to save game or save inning or save run. 10. I don't know what you're doing, but keep it up. And you look at the Dodgers and you look at the Braves, 2 great teams. I mean, you can't go wrong with either of them in the World Series. And the way the Rays are playing, I really want to see them in the World Series. And just hope it's a fun series. In general.
That's all I can ask for.
That's all you can ask for. All right.
Good for baseball.
It is. It's very good for baseball, especially Tennyson's at the movie theater now. I think that's going to wrap it up. I think we've covered everything. I think this was a good episode. Tennyson's got pizza. I'm pretty hungry. So I think we'll call it quits there. Thank you for tuning in.
I want to thank everyone that shouted out the page. That was really nice of you guys. I really appreciated that. Very thank you.
Thank you for that. Continue to shout out the page like we mentioned earlier. Tell everyone
Follow us on everything. Check out the website.
Follow us on everything. Check out the website. Interact with us. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Whenever we're not working on college essays, we will be working on sports essays. Just to
a lot of writing.
But that's why we're here. We love doing it. We're all happy to be doing it. And we look forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We hope you join us for the ride. And Tennyson is now at the Golden Gate Bridge. Tennyson, anywhere else you want to travel in the world before we sign off for tonight?
Wherever Zoom lets me, man.
Wherever Zoom takes us. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to episode 2. We'll be back with episode 3 very soon. Until then, I'm Dominic. This is Dan and Ant, the Price Brothers, and this is my good friend with the pizza, Tennyson. We are the cast of Sports Kingdom, and we'll catch you in the next one.
By
Have
the
a good
fans
one.
for the fans.